I forgot to turn the mic back on. That's so awkward. I apologize. That's awkward. Oh well. Okay, yeah, so we're going to school together. I mentioned earlier that I would want to play This Is Miles because of the friend comment. But also, you couldn't hear me reading that, so I was really in character. That's really disappointing. Oh well, I will have to carry on. I hope I wasn't, well, I was worried. I came to the audio because I was like, oh, I think I'm probably getting too loud. But, oh. You wouldn't have noticed. You didn't hear anything. Yeah, okay. I will carry on then now. Okay, what did she say? Chi and Kia, you're both here, hi. Okay, yeah. Hey, good morning, Tamarack. That's right, we came to ask you to go to school with us. You waved at her, you lowered your gaze shyly. Want to walk to school together? Okay, so it was technically Chu's idea. So would Kia? Well, I don't know. I'm gonna go ahead and just gonna go ahead and say this. Yeah. Chu followed your invitation with a nod. We're all going that way. It'd be cool to walk as a group. She blinked rapidly many times all in a row. In the soft pink light, her eyelashes looked almost like shimmering dragonfly wings. Wow, okay, I want to come. She twisted almost the whole way around, turning her back to you. She could just barely glimpse the darkened hall beyond her. Tamarack then leaned over, bending her knees, and powerfully shouted into the depths of the gray house. I'm going to school now! Her loud, high-pitched call echoed through the hallway. Have a good day, young lady! I don't know if it was her grandma or grandpa, so sorry about that. Tamarack hopped forward. It was small, but that was all it took to go from being in her house to being out in the outside world. She tugged the doorknob with her to slam the door shut. I'm ready. Sparkle, sparkle, sparkle. I'm not gonna get over it. I'm sorry, guys. No, I'm not. The quickness of all that was too much, and Chiyu needed a second to catch up with it. But when he did, he chuckled. Perfect. And by the way, people don't always call me Chiyu, especially at school. I've got a nickname. It's Autumn, because that's what my name means. Oh, okay. I like Chiyu. You do? Thanks. Well, Tamarack's doing it. We don't always call him his nickname, but races too, so Tamarack's doing it. So I think it's totally fine for Kia to keep doing it because like I'm curious, but I'm trying to think about Kia. Oh, I didn't even read these options. So this one says, I keep doing it. Okay. You are going to try to using the nickname sometimes. You decided to keep using his actual name too. Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna do this. Maybe I should play as Frankie. I think Frankie would use the nickname. She lazily said, oh my gosh, I can read, I swear. Chu lazily settled his hands on his hips, and his eyes moved way off to the side, even though there was nothing special to see that way. Guess we've actually got to go to class. Yeah. She pumped her fists up and down in the air in a pattern that matched the pace of her yas. Yeah. Okay, I had to mimic it. You can't see me, but I did mimic it because I had to get a visualization and say it at a good pace that you can actually move. Here we go. I hope we're not going to be late. You sound really excited, Chu, you joked. I'm glad you're coming, Tamarack. Yeah, you sighed. Yeah, you cheered along with Tamarack. You smiled wide. Or we could not go, you teased. Or we could not go, you said plainly. Well, like, see, it's tempting to have her cheer alongside Tamarack because, you know, energy matching. But I think, you know, she still has some, like, first day jitters. She was trying to look at the bright side, but I think she's just gonna go, here we go. I forgot what voices I was doing. Yeah. All closer together, you, Chiyu, and Tamarack tramped off the white wooden porch. The full set of cul-de-sac kids hit the road again. The trip was almost the opposite of last time. The sun was coming up instead of going down, and you were leaving the neighborhood instead of going back to it. But that wasn't what really stood out to you. It was a little bit amazing you already could compare it to last time. And you could guess that this journey with them wasn't gonna be the actual last time it ever happened. It'd just become the last time it happened before the new next time. This is such a pretty shot. Is there like a... Yeah, there's no way to just look at this shot, but this shot is really pretty. Oh. Let me save in case something happens. Are you sure you want to overwrite your save? Well, when you put it like that, no, I'm not sure. I'll save right here. The first day of school, the first part of the school trip wasn't hard. There was only one way out of your neighborhood unless someone hiked out into wherever the woods went. That would be cool. Maybe you'd be able to do that someday. Your actual path forward had you brushed past the forest fork that originally led you to meeting Chiyu and Tamarack. But you weren't stuck with the same limits as before. This morning you moved right on by without even stopping to check what might be hidden away back there. Now you traveled even further. The woods crowded in closer and closer around the one road that led out. Until suddenly, structures began to appear in between the bushes. The thick overhang of leaves pulled apart to show the sky. The world unfolded ahead of you. Sunshine climbed mountains to just barely tickle your cheeks, while the stars still clustered against your back. You are right in the center of a windy mountain path. Oh, it's moving. Sorry. I was like, whoa, look at it's moving. We're moving in. You're right in the center of a windy mountain path. It flowed over the uneven ground, blanketing every small bump and bend like a black river. Along the street, huge wooden poles rose into the sky in a row that rivaled the trees. Stretching phone lines and reaching branches wove the whole town together. Even though Golden Grove was a lived-in place with man-made things, the vast wilderness was as much a neighbor to the residents as their real people neighbors. That's really nice. We should be able to coexist with nature. Tamarack tramped over the grass, swooshing her arms in full-length swings in front of her. She didn't get anywhere near the tarmac. The tarmac. The tarmac? Guys, I don't know what that means. 1 second, I gotta look it up. Define tarmac. I should get a dictionary so I just have one next to me. Material used for surfacing roads or other outdoor areas, consisting of crushed rocks mixed with tar. Okay. Surface a road or outdoor area with tarmac or a similar material. Seek employment. Well, I'm thinking it's the first one, because the other two are verbs. Excuse me. Chiu's stride was a lot breezier. He took the spot in the line closest to the road and didn't even check for cars. His eyes were aimed at the now viewable sky. You ended up somewhere in between them. If Tamarack was a swoosh and Chiu was a breeze, you were a whirlwind. You rushed about, twisting the angle of your head and taking in every new thing that surrounded you. All that air went out the window when Chiu started moving his hands around even more than Tamarack. He frantically stuck his fingers in and out of each pocket while poking his tongue out at the corner of his mouth. You and Tamarack just watched as he tugged at his jacket and pants while walking. The two of you probably shared the same exact thought. He was looking for his notebook or paper or something. Aha! And it was paper, but it wasn't his special tan pages. The thing Chiu grabbed was a thick, folded packet of white printer paper that was covered all over in tiny ink words. You could instantly tell what it was. That many papers stapled together with that many little words on them only ever came from one place: school. Chiu held it close to his face. He had his nose completely in what was basically a book, but for some reason he started to talk to you and Tamarack. Which room did you get? For a second, Chiu peeked over the pages to look at the both of you. Who's your teacher? Tamarack thought hard, but she didn't find an answer in her head. She squished her hand under the flap of her backpack without unbuckling it. She had to find her own papers. I remember my mama told me. I remember I read it earlier. I'm gonna check. Mama told me, but I forgot. Oh, I know that. You moved quietly to check your school stuff too. You thought about it, and before long, you knew the answer. I do think her mom would have told her, but I don't think she would remember immediately. So maybe I'll do this one, because I think for Kia, she'd be like, oh, and then would remember. If it was Miles, it would just be this one. I'm sorry. I'm gonna keep pointing out what my characters are gonna do because that's how I like to play games, in character sometimes. And I know I'm still playing character Kia, but I have so many characters. Okay. Or should... Yeah, I think she does have recall. It just takes her a second. Oh. I'm in room 24 with Miss Murray. The room is number 24. I think the teacher's name was Murray. It's 24. The room, my teacher's name is Mrs. Murray. But you didn't tell them. You wanted to see what they were going to say. Okay. Yeah. It's 24, the room. My teacher's name is Mrs. Murray. The room is number 24. I think the teacher's name is Murray. These are both kind of... yeah, this one. She used his thumb to bend the papers down. They stopped hiding his face, and you could see he was smiling. Wait, that's my room too! Tamarack waved her packet in the air in a crinkly flurry. We three! Sorry. We're all in the same class, you cheered. We're gonna be stuck together forever, you joked. We're gonna be stuck together forever, you groaned. You closed your eyes and smiled. You were happy you'd get to share a class with Chiyu. You were happy you'd get to share a class with Tamarack. You were happy you'd get to share a class with Chiyu and Tamarack. She's gonna cheer. We're all in the same class! Your mama had given you the papers. Chiyu probably got his from his mom and dad, and Tamarack from her Omi and Opa. Despite being kind of different, the papers were all the same. A smirk settled in its regular spot on Chiyu's face. All according to plan, if he somehow could have planned it. We're roommates! He didn't need the packet for anything else, so he stuffed it in his pant pocket with a shrug of one shoulder. There's only 3 5th grade classes we could have been in. When Chiyu made sure it was deep enough to not fall out, he brought his arms into an even bigger shrug and chuckled. He's got deep pockets, like what the heck? I mean, I guess it's kind of a booklet, right? I'm trying to imagine it. It's like a little, the papers that could cover his face, but it can also fit in his pocket. Crazy. Not crazy, but wild. Out there. Not out there, but I'll continue reading now. Did I read this? When Chiyu made sure it was deep enough to not just fall out, he brought both his arms into an even bigger shrug and chuckled too. But Mrs. Murray, I almost made it without her being my teacher. It was close. Tamarack peered into his face with wide eyes, leaning over so much that he almost walked into her. She didn't have to say what her question was with words. Chiyu got it. Don't worry, she's nice. She's the best teacher for you two. Chiyu made a very serious and reassuring okay sign with his fingers, but in an instant, it snapped into a pointing gesture. Okay sign. Okay. Snap into I'm sure you guys understand what that means. And you're probably gonna be shocked, but Mrs. Murray isn't just a teacher. She's a mom. She has kids that are just her kids, not students. Wow! Oh yeah, see the difference. See, hers is pink with polka dots, and his was like red stripes, very autumn. See what I did there? Okay. That's weird. Why would that be weird? I think you're weird, Chiyu, you joked. I think you're weird, Chiyu, you said bluntly. I'd never want a teacher as my parent. It'd be kind of fun to have a parent who was a teacher. You stared in amazement. You stared at the two of them for how big a deal they made it. You just watched the two talk. Okay, so let's think about Kyo. Kyo would probably be like, whoa. Because her mom's not a teacher. Sorry. That's weird. Everyone. Kia's always looking for things that are fun. So I think she's gonna think that it would be kind of fun to have a parent who's a teacher because extra help at home. You don't understand something. I do think that's what she would think. No! But now I know weird. But now I know where we're really going. I can bring us right to the door. The extra burst of confidence got Chiyu to take a few long strides ahead of you and Tamarack, keeping his chin high. Tamarack bounced across the grass, kicking her knees high to catch up. She didn't let him keep the lead he took. You happily went up to them. Oh, I didn't read all those. Wait. You shyly caught up. You happily went up to them. You hung back. You ran forward to get back in the middle of the row. You were greeted with grins from both of them. Your steps came back into a steady rhythm between the three of you. Tamarack, are you worried about going to a new school? Chiyu, why didn't you want Miss Murray for your teacher? Tamarack, does your Omi and Oppa know anything about my house from before I moved there? Chiyu, do you know anything about my house before I moved there? You walked along quietly. Okay. Well, Tamarack doesn't seem that worried. But we don't have the full question of that. So I think we will ask this question. I think Kia will ask this question. I'm trying to think about it. Because, yeah. Because she knows me. Not like how all the teachers have met me because I go to that school. His dark brown eyes stretched open as wide as they could. His whispered words were pulled out just as long. It was a deep, secret confession. She really knows me, outside of school and everything. The seriousness of it only lasted a second. She laughed at it instead. It's gonna be tough to get away with stuff now. Instead, Tamarack put on the shocked expression Chiyu had just put away. Whoa, I've never seen a teacher outside of school. When do they leave? Ah! Sorry guys, I keep pressing that button. Pretty late usually, but they do go home and do errands and stuff. I've experienced it. Huh. That was interesting. We'd learned something new. The longer the walk went on, the more Tamarack's gaze was pulled to the forest. Maybe Kia would have not wanted a parent who was a teacher. Well, you know, young Kia can think differently than teenage Kia. It's totally fine. Sorry, I backtrack. I think about things longer than I need to. The longer the way went... Oh my gosh, is this really loud? It's like really loud to me. Maybe I should just turn down the volume instead of doing... Well, okay, wait. It's gonna get loud again for a second. Turn this back up. But I'm gonna turn down the volume because... Oh, not too much. Okay, so how does that sound with me talking? Maybe I'll bring this down just a little bit. Okay, is that good? I hope it's good. I can't really tell. I'll bring it down just a little bit more. Well, the bar's right there. Okay. I think we are A-okay to continue. Reminder that you can find this game on Steam or on itch.io. Yep. Itch.io? I think that's how it's said. I'm a mess. Anyway, or not a mess, but I don't always know how to pronounce things. Anything. The longer the walk went on, the more Tamarack's gaze was pulled to the forest edge along the road instead of what was right in front of her. Her steps drifted unevenly. You couldn't blame her. You had done the same during the trip a few times. But you weren't the only one who noticed her focus. Hey, so it's kind of funny how both of you like the woods that much. It's the only nice place I've seen here so far. She said it in the plainest way possible, and the words still made you gasp hard enough to cough. Have you been places other than the forest? Yeah, lots. They're not good. I can't believe it. It's not that big a deal. I think Tamarack's probably right. The town's not going to be better. Hey, both places can be good. They're just different. You shouldn't try to make Tamarack change her mind on what she likes to you. It's mean to say the woods are the only good place, Tamarack. Look on the bright side. That's more forest for her and more neighborhood for you. You didn't say anything about that. I think he is going to try to keep the peace. And not, like, blame. Well. Both places can be good. Doesn't seem like it's putting any blame on anyone, right? But it's different. Yeah. She shook off the shock Tamarack's statement hit him with. He turned his cheek to the front as he rolled his shoulder. He was winding up for a comeback. I guess I can give you one thing. There is a pretty special kind of fun that, in all my years of living here, you could only ever have out in these very woods, nowhere else. Really? What is it? He'd cast a reel, and Tamarack was hooked on it. She instantly became invested in whatever mystery Chiu had up his line. I'm not gonna tell you. What? Tamarack shrieked in a tone so high it scared away a bird who was minding its own business in the tree above. It was hook, line, and sinker. The beat of its wings fluttering through the air matched Chiu's giggling. He brought a hand to his chin and leveled a mischievous glance at Tamarack. One day, he'll understand. Probably. And that was really it. He closed his lips, folded his arms, and settled in to not explaining for the rest of the walk. Tamarack couldn't accept that. Or couldn't get the hint. She pestered him with the passion in her words, getting stronger every time she repeated them. Tell me the thing. Tell me the special thing, Chiu. Tell me the special thing. It was too funny. That's not fair, Chiu. We can figure it out for sure, Tamarack. You stayed out of that. A mysterious place deep in the woods? The thought of that was so exciting. Please tell us? Sorry, Tamarack, you'll have to wait and see. You silently fumed. Who wants to bet she never finds out, you teased? Come on, Chiu, you've got to say more than that. She's either going to be like, we can figure it out for sure, or a mysterious place in the woods. I think she'd be excited about that. That's, yeah. Too bad you weren't going there. You were headed to school. The conversation of Tamarack's attempts to squeeze Chiu for info and the snickers that escaped Chiu continued while you headed towards your goal. This is so pretty. I know I already said that, but it really is. Down that road some more, over a crosswalk, and past the main street, taking a turn at the corner. That was when the whitest building you'd seen so far came into view. That was bright. That got so much brighter. I guess colors really do make up the brightness. There had been... Sorry. There had been taller ones, because that one only had 2 floors, but there were a lot of those floors. North Acres Elementary School. The name made sense. You wondered exactly how many acres it was. Dozens of other kids were pouring out from the few different paths and mixing together under the front arches above the giant door. You tried to stand up straight, wanting to do things right. Then you went through the door together. Chiyu and Tamarack stayed even closer to you than on the walk there. This is actually pretty interesting, the fact that this game goes to school. I mean, it takes place in fall, but it starts at school, or has a school year, because the previous one are beginnings and always. Yeah, beginnings and always. It takes place over the summer. This is summer story. Summer. And this is autumn. I wonder if they'll do one for winter and spring. But I don't even know how much of the... No, I think this stays in autumn, right? I don't know. But yeah. I don't know. Anyway. Well, I guess... No, anyway. I was thinking, how different would it even end up being if you do winter and spring? Because summer is summer vacation. Fall is the start of the school year. So would winter be the winter vacation? Would spring be the second semester of the school year? Well, I guess technically second semester also starts in winter. So yeah, how different can it be? I guess it would just depend. I mean, I don't know if they even have plans to do one. I don't know if they, I'm saying if they didn't have plans, I understand, because they might not, or we all might, because how different would they be able to make it? I mean, well, the characters already make it very different. So I guess it just depends, if they have a storyline that they want to tell with characters. Yeah. All right. That was a lot of rambling for me. Let's carry on. Inside was a long hall with different doors and a staircase on the side. It was shiny and dull, like it'd been cleared so hard, like it'd been cleaned so hard for so long, it made everything even more worn down than normal. That's funny, cleaned so hard it was worn down. Poster boards with a bunch of paper sheets tacked online the walls. Nobody was even looking at them. The messages, they might never have been read. The messages might never have been read. Okay, I struggle sometimes to understand things after reading them a few times. Okay, so I get the sentence now, saying that what is on these boards may never have been read before because nobody was looking at them. Yep, see, I have reading comprehension. The floors had a checkered tile pattern. Some of the kids around made sure to only walk on one of the colors and avoid the other. And it was loud. There was too much sound from the crowds for the hall to hold. It echoed around, which made it even louder. This was your school now. This place was your school now. Chiyu tapped your shoulder and pointed with his other hand. You figured that was his way to say you had to keep going without having to yell so you could hear. The three of you pressed past the other students, making sure you didn't get separated. Step by step, You climbed upwards and forwards. Chiyu waved a hand towards the right door when you reached the top. You'd arrived for the first day of class right on time. The little bit of cold you'd brought inside the school on the tip of your nose and over your cheeks had finally drifted off your face. Oh, right, she probably should have been wearing a jacket. Maybe I should have considered that because it's cold outside. It was nice and warm when you went into the room. Your brand new class, 5th grade. Your brand new class, 5th grade room number 24, smelled like people hard at work. Cut construction paper, crayons, glue, anything could be made with that. There were tons of leaves stuck to the different colored walls, climbing around the windows, hanging from the shelves, and sneaking out from behind boards, where some of those things could be made. Kids sat together in close groups. The desks were pushed up to make bigger tables. There was just one chair by itself, right at the front, or the back, if the way in was the front door. Tamarack took a loud breath of waxy air. Wow, I thought it was going to be ugly. Me too, but this is cool. It is ugly. Tamarack, why would you think that? My old school was better. It's good you were surprised, huh? It reminds me of you. Adorable. I guess it's not as bad as my last school. This looks like my old kindergarten class, you said, so confused. This looks like kindergarten, you said, excited. Wow, this is way better than my old school. You were quietly amazed by how pretty all the decorations were. It was okay, just a classroom. You frowned. It was worse than you had thought. You nodded. This was definitely better than what you were dealing with before. Yeah, let's say this one. This looks like kindergarten. You said excited because yeah. Oh, what did I say Kia's things were? Praising. That's like the complimentary one, right? Oh, look, it tells you again. You go out of your way to casually or flirtatiously compliment the other. It's because I was considering this one. I'm trying to think if she would say it or not. No, I think she's excited about kindergarten. I'm sorry. I think when because I'm trying to think about kid Kia versus like teenage Kia. I think teenage Kia would kind of say more of that. So maybe, but I think she still tends to be pretty praising. So I'm not gonna. I don't think that this can't be changed if I want it to, right? Yeah, this can't be changed anyway. But I think she is praising because I think she likes people a lot. She adorable. Almost pressed the wrong button. This looks like kindergarten, you said, excited. Yeah. Hugh shrugged his backpack off to the floor. When it hit the ground, a puff of air came out the not totally zipped top. Nothing in the place caught his eye, in a good way or a bad one. It was like nothing around him existed. Chiyo just watched you and Tamarack look. He chuckled at the faces you both made. The classes looked the same for every room, in every grade, every year. Oh, it wasn't that he couldn't see what you did. It was that he'd already seen it 110 times or more. Chiu knew school as well as he knew everything else in Golden Grove. He kicked his backpack behind him to be up against the wall, never glancing down. There was already a bunch of other bags there, sat by one along the far side of the room. They were almost completely hidden under a row of hooks that had coats and jackets and stuff cluttered over them in stacked piles. There weren't enough holders for all the layers people brought. You're pretty lucky. This is your first time here, but you're only going to have to do it once. We're going to graduate and go to a different school next year. We'll all be new kids then. He talked while he put his arms out of the jacket you'd always seen him wear so far. He tossed it onto the top of a rounded lump of other coats with the hook somewhere below it all. Tamarack waited, watched, and then she tugged at the end of her scarf to undo the knot she was wrapped in. She talked too. I told you this place was weird and never changed. That made Chiu at her. The sound was almost exactly like the noise his backpack made a minute ago. School is different than the entire town, Tamarack. Tamarack didn't say more words against that. She just got on her tippy toes to sling her untied scarf over Chiu's jacket, building the mountain of stuff on the one little hook even higher. Chiu shoved his bandana deep into Chiu shoved his bandana deep into one of his pockets and lifted up his other shoulder. You're right, the class is always the same. Seeing Chiu without his fluffy jacket felt like seeing a lion without his mane. He folded his arms high across his chest and gazed upon what you were staring to get. He folded his arms across his chest and gazed upon what you were starting to get was his kingdom. He had all the pride of a lion, even without the jacket. Though Chiu acted like that was it for getting ready. He hadn't taken his gloves off. Was he going to wear those to class? Tamarack held tight to the strap of her bag. It for sure wasn't going with the rest of the packs, and that meant she was definitely already done with the putting your stuff away part of getting to school. Tamarack's overalls were the most over clothes she had once the scarf was off. No coat or cool poncho or anything. The overalls were kinda short too. They didn't cover her whole legs. Her ankles had long socks, yellow rubber rain boots to keep them warm, but you had to wonder if she didn't feel cold the same way most people did. Yeah, she's gonna leave that on. You took off your headband, you left your stuff on. Good morning. Welcome, students. You glanced over your shoulder. In the open doorway was another person for you to have to know. Her braids did match a few of the kids there, but she wasn't going to be sitting in the desks with them. She was twice as tall as everybody else in the room. That had to be the teacher, Mrs. Murray. Her soft brown eyes locked down over you and your neighbors while she tapped a finger against her freckle-speckled face. The pattern on her skin was almost like stars if the sky was light at night and the stars were the darker part. Her rosy pink lips parted into a smile. She inclined her chin towards Chiu. Nice to see you here, Mr. Chiu Lin. This will be a good year. Yeah. Chiu stretched out the word as far as it could go, and at the same time he opened his arms wide. He turned his head away too. He had the kind of tone your mama would have when you were 6 and she agreed to eat the delicious dirt pies you'd made her. Squeakly, cheerful, and not real. He was trying to be nice, but wasn't trying that hard. Though, when his eyes were rolling away, his gaze passed over you and got stuck there. A mischievous grin tugged the corners of his mouth as the sound of his voice went from off-key to chiming. Maybe. Mrs. Murray's pencil-pointed eyebrows lifted. She blinked one more time, and then her own smile grew. It was shared with you and Tamarack next. Hello, I'm your teacher, Mrs. Murray. Am I right to say that you're Tamarack Bauman and Kia Connolly? Yes, teacher. I'm Kia. Yes, I'm Miss Kia Connolly. Nice to meet you, Mrs. Murray. I'm Kia. I'm Tamarack Bauman, you joked. You nodded. She guessed right. You just stared at the grown-up talking to you. You looked at the ground without a word. I'm trying to think if she was gonna do the joke or not, because I'm trying to think. I think Ty might. So I'm like, but does that mean Kia won it? Not necessarily, but Oh, see, this is my indecision. Okay, what's more Kia? She might shout which one she is. She might try to follow the trend of the group because they did the Miss Part thing all fancy like last time. Nice to meet you. Very polite, very polite. You're joking about being Tamarack. Oh, I'm too indecisive for this. Okay. Kia's very playful. I think because I might play this again as my other characters, I'm gonna stick with this one because I think Kia is the most likely to do this one. Well, because I think if I were to do Paisley would do this one. Ty would do this one. I think Miles would just nod. Nice to meet you, Miss Murray. I'm Kia. Leilani would do this one. I'm not sure which one Frankie would do. I guess probably also this one, or maybe that one. I keep pressing, I keep right-clicking. Okay. Tamarack bobbed her hands in the air and twisted in place to swing her bag so that it hung behind her back. And I'm Tamarack! That is so great. Miss Murray spoke sweetly in a way that was just so nice. It wasn't surprised or relieved to find out the answer. She probably didn't need to ask who you were. Teachers knew a lot. Look, they got those seasons. Winter, spring, summer, or fall. Happy fall. All you've got to do is call. And they'll be there. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, right. I read that. If you'd be so kind, would you mind coming over to my desk over there in the far corner? I'd like to talk to you two before class begins. Okay. Tamarack finally lowered her hands back down to her side. She still bumped her bag around by pushing it down with her butt. It clattered loudly, and Mrs. Murray pretended not to hear. Yes, teacher. What do you want to talk to us about? Well, don't take too long. Did we do something wrong already? I can go too. What about you? You grabbed the side of Tamarack's overall shyly. Is it important? You took a step closer, curious. You took a step away, nervous. My brain went right here like, what? Are we in trouble? This is, no cheat. No, you're both perfect, but I might do something wrong. We wouldn't want that. All right. Thank you, both of you. She gestured lightly with her hand for you to come to and left the doorway. Hugh turned his head to follow the teacher, and more of his dark hair eclipsed your view of the rest of him as she walked away. When you lost sight of his face, there had been a frown on it. After she was really gone, he swung back towards you and Tamarack, Chiu smirking then. Good luck out there. Sparkle, sparkle, sparkle. He tipped over on one foot and bent his body way down. His other leg kicked into the air. He could balance better than a flamingo. Chiu slipped a hand under his jacket on the hook and also under Tamarack's scarf, which was still on top of it, and dug around in the fabric. He didn't come out empty-handed. He'd gotten a hold of his favorite notebook and a pencil. Chiu slowly lifted his chest up and brought his hovering foot down to earth again. That whole thing was graceful, but he followed it by wildly waving his notebook goodbye at you. And a paper fell out when he did it. Ah! Tamarack squealed, trying to talk, but too fast, so none of it was real words. She reached her arms to Chiu gaspingly, like she could pick him up and plant him back where he dropped his thing. That didn't work either. He stepped away on light feet, carefree, and joined up with one of the groups at the desks. They all raised their heads and waved when he arrived. He was gone, and the teacher was waiting. Tamarack squinted her dark red eyes tightly. She directed her gaze towards you because it wasn't like anyone else in the room could understand her. You gave her a look back. Chiu, he said with a smirk. Chiu, he said with a sigh. Not again. Scatterbrain, you said with a grin. Scatterbrain, you said with a grimace. Isn't he so funny? Isn't he so great? You stared at Tamarack in disbelief for that guy. You shook your head with a frown. You snickered. She might laugh. Again, thinking about other things. Chiu said with a smirk. You snickered. He's so funny. This is gonna be a long, however long it is. You picked up the paper and peeked at what it said. You picked up the paper and put it in your pocket without looking. You left it on the ground. I think he was gonna pick up the paper, but I think she's also gonna peek, not like, cause she was like, oh, what does it say? But I think she's just like, she's just gonna look at it. You made a beeline to the town page on the dark blue carpet and snatched it off the ground before someone could step on it, or it could blow away and get lost in the middle of a forest. Before putting it in your pocket, you read over the top side and flipped it over to see the back. It was a list of food and other things. Maybe he was trying to remember what stuff to get when he went to the store with his parents. You tucked it away in your pocket. That was taken care of. Tamarack pretended to be a jack-in-the-box like she did yesterday, this time by bending her knees before bouncing straight. Her fluffy locks of hair shook around her round cheeks. Come on, Kia. She skipped off to the teacher's desk. All smiles. You caught up to her in no time and walked the rest of the way side by side. Off in the corner, on the other side of the room, was the teacher's old dark brown desk. At least the very top of the wood was dark. The inner part was a lot lighter. You could see that from all the tiny cuts and scratches all over the surface. It was as far away from the desks as it could be. You guessed that was so she could have these kinds of talks without everybody hearing the whole thing. Miss Murray didn't sit in the cool rolling chair that went behind the desk. She stayed in front and only leaned her back against the top edge. She got to talk to you and Tamarack gently because she didn't have to push her voice across a piece of furniture that separated separated students and teachers. I appreciate you coming to this meeting. I wanted to let you know a little about today, what you can expect from your first day. Why? Well, this class has a unique arrangement of the students, but you're the only two who have never attended the school before. Everyone else is simply returning after a summer break. I'd like to introduce you during roll call later. I want all the other kids to know who you are. Oh. Tamarack flicked the buckles on her bag. They made a clinking sound when she hit them up, and a thump when they landed back down. Her gaze moved around too. The meeting wasn't exciting anymore. You're with Tamarack. That wasn't a big deal. Your teacher was definitely smart. That would help a lot. You thought you were ready for school, but you weren't anymore. Having your own introduction made you feel special. It was going to be so awkward, you knew it. You were just relieved it wasn't only you. Tamarack was getting it too. I think, jitters again. Jitters, first day jitters. Why couldn't they come up with some other way for people to know who you are? Or they could just let you be a mystery. You were already getting a tummy ache, and it was gonna be even worse once it really happened. The face you made wasn't what any teacher would have wanted when they told their students their plans for class. Miss Ray could only offer promises over her plans and no proof. I'll make sure it will be all right. The kids will get it. The teacher slid her hands across the desktop behind her and spread her fingers out wide. Oh, wait. In a couple minutes, well, I want to see something real quick. Sorry, I'm going to go back a little bit. If she is like this, most schools did things like that. Miss Murray smiled approvingly at how you and Tamarack handled the first task. I'll make sure it all goes well. Nah, but I do think she would be nervous. I gotta say true. Sorry. The teacher slid her hands across the desktop behind her and spread her fingers out wide. In a couple minutes, I'll be telling the class to take their assigned seats. You'll have those spots for the rest of the year. I made a seating plan already, but there is a bit of wiggle room to help you get comfortable if you'd like. Tamarack's hands flew up from her bag to her cheeks. That sounded like a smack. Does that mean me and Kia get to sit together because we're neighbors and friends? Her outburst made you want to cover your face with your hands too, for a really different reason. You were so nervous. Your heart wasn't going to stop running around your chest until the teacher said if you get to be with Tamarack the whole year or not. A twinkle was in Mrs. Murray's eyes when she finally said what you were hoping for. You thought she might have paused on purpose to make it more dramatic. Yes, I can put you next to each other. Woohoo! It made Tamarack explode in celebration. She popped up on one foot, and pulling the other up near her chest, and her arms went into the air. Kia, we're gonna sit together! Yeah! We've got something then. Anything else? Any seat is okay. Can Tamarack and I sit with you? Can I sit close to the front? Can I sit in the back of the class? Can I sit by a window? Can I sit away from the wall? I don't care what seat I have. You couldn't think of anything to say. Yeah, she's gonna ask if they can all sit together because they're the trio. They're the besties. They're the They were both your house neighbors. They were both your house neighbors. I want to also say that if I played this as Miles, he probably would want to ask that, but probably wouldn't because he wouldn't want to be annoying and clingy. They were both your house neighbors. Tamarack and Chiyu had to be your seat neighbors too. Mr. A was a really proper lady from what you'd seen. She didn't have one wrinkle on her fancy suit, but creases suddenly appeared around her eyes and mouth after she'd heard that. The line spelled, not again. No, I'm sorry. I'm glad you're getting along with Chiyu, but there were students who wanted to sit next to him last year that didn't get to. It's their turn now. Your eyebrows went up so high that you almost could have lost them. That many people wanted to sit by Chiyu? It was kind of rude to the teacher, but you had to turn your head right around to look at the guy you'd been talking about. He was leaning over a bunch of desks from before and still talking to those other kids you didn't know. There was a big smile on every face. You tilted your head back where it came, but not all the way. You only moved it enough to be looking to the side instead at Tamarack. Her gaze was straight at you too. She gripped the strap of her bag that was weighing against her chest. Since the day you moved in, it had been just the three of you in your cul-de-sac. Even if the day you moved in was yesterday, it was the same group. You, Tamarack, and Chiyu, neighbors. But you weren't in your neighborhood anymore. On the outside of that street, Tamarack was exactly like you were, and Chiyu wasn't. You and her were strangers in Golden Grove now. You didn't know people, and they didn't know you. Chiyu had been there forever. It wasn't only that. You'd already learned something on your first day of school. Chiyu was popular. You were glad to have a friend like Tamarack even more. Someday you were going to be popular too. If he had so many friends, why did he care about getting to know you? It didn't matter how many other kids liked him. Chiyu was your friend too. You weren't going to let that change things. The three of you were still friends. Maybe he only talked to you because he talked to everyone. That was too weird. Realizing that made you sad. Well, that was good for him. You wondered how you would fit in when you met everyone else. Yeah, you weren't gonna let that change things. Yeah. That's what mattered, not what other people thought of your friends. Not looking at her didn't stop your teacher from trying to talk to you. Kia, I'm sure once you're in your seat, you'll get used to it. Soon, you won't want to be anywhere else. And if not, you can come talk to me about it. Yes, Mrs. Murray. You shouldn't talk the desk up anymore. It was gonna have to win you over on its own, or not. So, Miss Murray had to wait for you and Tamarack to stop your shared stares of surprise, and then she pointed across the floor to a couple of desks near the back that were side by side. Those are yours. Tamarack's is the closest to the wall, and Kia, yours is the one next to that. Window seat, gotta sit at the window seat. Tamarack happily sung herself a simple song about her brand new desk. Besides the roll call, there won't be any surprises. It will be a regular, easy first day of class. Thank you for having a chat with me. You can take your seats. Tamarack's cheeks inflated, and she pushed a smile between the two balls of air. Okay, let's go, Kia. All right. The teacher stayed, resting up against her desk, while you and Tamarack went towards your own seats. Tamarack sent quick, excited glances from the desks, then back to you over and over as you walked towards them. She chatted about how it was going to be so fun being right next to each other and all the things you could do during the year. It was hard not to believe her. She beamed so bright, it was like her sparkly golden hair made the sunshine that filled the room. A clap and call came from where you just left. Attention students, class is starting. Take your seats. Just like she said she would, Mrs. Murray was beginning the lesson. You were right in front of your assigned group of desks when she said it. The red plastic chair Miss Murray had pointed out before was probably really old, but it was brand new to you. You pulled it out from the tables and gave sitting in it a try. Hard, cold, and slippery smooth. The back part wasn't straight. It bent away from the bottom seat part. It felt like leaning against the top of a shiny slide on the playground. If you weren't paying attention, you might fall right off. Maybe that was the point. That was a way to keep kids focused. Tamarack was right there, next to your left side, by the wall in the window, just like she'd wanted. Past her, you could see the rustling treetops outside, with their golden fall leaves all bunched together. They kind of looked like Tamarack's puffy hair, but not as sparkly. She plopped her huge jingling pack on the desk. The actual bag barely fit, and she had to bundle up the strap on top so that it wasn't sneaking over into someone else's workspace. The tips of her rain boots were pressed against the dark blue carpet, and she tapped her heels together and made the shoes squeak. She was excited for her own place in the room. Kia, we're going to be right here for the rest of the year. Yep, I've got the best seat, neighbor. Tamarack patted her hands against the thick fabric. Tamarack patted her hands against the thick fabric of the bag, and she giggled in time with the hits. She stayed pretty busy making a beat. You glanced around the room ahead of you, where the important boards and teacher were. Chia was there too, in the very front row of seats. It wasn't the same spot he'd been in before, but when you saw him talking to some people, but those other classmates he was sitting with were just as happy to have him there. He was hanging one of his arms across the top edge of his chair, and was settled in so snugly he looked like a heavy blanket that had been thrown over it. He moved his head to the side to rest his cheek against his stretched out shoulder. Chiu somehow made himself sit even more relaxed. When that happened, he noticed you behind him. Chiu firmly pressed down his eyebrows and pushed his mouth open a little. He wasn't there when you learned you and Tamarack would be together, and he wouldn't be there with you. Now he found out. He only looked that way long enough for you to notice that you had, for him to notice that you had noticed his expression. Then your friend, house neighbor, and not seat neighbor, lifted the corner of his mouth and sneakily waved the hand draped on the seat at you. Chiu's deep brown-eyed gaze darted over to Mrs. Murray, directing your attention to her. His eyes kept moving right to a dramatic roll that went all the way around. It wasn't hard to imagine him saying, "Teachers, huh?" or something like that. For a minute, you could picture what it would have been like if he had been right next to you. But he couldn't face you forever. It was class time, and you were left staring at the tiny ponytail on the back of his head again. It was okay. You were close enough. Mrs. Ray patiently waited for people to get settled. Every seat had a kid in it, and final words were said before the room faded into a short silence. That's when things changed from you being just someone in some room to a student who had to listen to a lesson. Hello, class. Thank you all for being here today. Welcome to your first day of 5th grade. She gave a round of applause. Normally the people sitting and watching were the ones who clapped for the person standing in the front, but you guessed Mrs. Murray did things differently. We're going to have a lot of fun this year, and you'll learn a lot too. But also, you're the big kids on campus now, so I'm counting on you to set a good example for the rest of the students here, all right? Yes, Mrs. Murray! Around half of the class answered her. Part was in a loud cheer. Others were bored grumbles. The teacher accepted both moods warmly. Thank you. Let's start with the roll call then. She crossed past the desks to get a folder off the little cubbies and in the corner. She got that and left her stick brown jacket behind. The teacher flipped the folder as she stepped back into the center spot. The cozy sweater made everything about her seem softer. You know the story. I'm going to shout out everyone's name in alphabetical order. First name first. When I call your name, raise your hand and say, "Here, Mrs. Murray, I am so excited and happy to be at school with you today." One moment. I'm just gonna step out for a second, so this will just be oh, hi, how are you? I am all right. I will be right back. Hi, I am doing okay. I'll be just right back. It'll be really fast. Welcome to the stream. I hope you are doing well yourself. It'll be really quick. Hello. Hi. Let's play with Nova. Hi. Welcome. I hope you're doing all right. Sorry. Yeah. I don't know how long you've been here, but you can see that the game is our life now, forever. I'm playing as one of my characters from one of my own original stories. That's how I'm trying to go through and keep in mind as I go through. But yes, welcome. That time, almost the whole class started to chatter. There were snickers shared between friends, whiny outcries of, "We can't do that," and somebody even booed. "Okay, just here will work, and now I know you're listening." Her soft voice had a jovial kick. She had fun with her job. "Let's begin." Your first name started with K. It would probably be a while before she'd call you. You gulped. Would it have been better to have it happen sooner or put it off even longer? Who knew? But not having to do it at all would have been best. Mrs. Murray went through each of the A kids, and it just kept going from there. And then you were next. You knew not just because she was on your first name letter, but because her keen eyes were on you before she even said anything. Kia Connolly? Here. I'm here, Mrs. Murray. Hi, I'm Kia. I just moved in with my mama into a new house, and you went on like that for a minute. I'm not here, Mrs. Murray. Here, Mrs. Murray, and I'm so excited and happy to be at school with you today. Here I am. Here. You shyly, shakily raised your hand. You put your hand up without talking. You folded your arms and said nothing. You sunk lower in your chair and tried to pretend you didn't hear her. You froze from the pressure. Shoot, I can't remember. Was she supposed to, do they do an introductory after attendance or during attendance? I can't remember. I'm not sure Kia would remember either. Yeah, I think Kia's going to, ramble. Yeah, I think she's gonna ramble. But you stopped when Mrs. Murray gave a sign it was okay and you could be done. Hushed words spread through the clusters of other kids. Before you'd announce yourself, they had no idea you were a person who existed in the world. Now they did. The teacher gave her approval with a nod. It was over, at least for one day. She'd probably do roll call for every class for the whole year. You didn't want to think about that. The roll call rolled on after your turn. Chiu-Lin? Mr. Chiu-Lin didn't raise his hand. He just popped a thumbs up from his laid-back lean. Here, Mrs. Murray. That worked, though, and your teacher moved on. Tamarack Bauman? Tamarack's arm shot up in record time. It had already been wound up and ready for that moment. I'm Tamarack. That's me. It wasn't exactly what she was supposed to say, but Tamarack got an A for effort. Mrs. Murray continued with the last of the names. Once every person in a stiff red seat had a turn to say they were there, Mrs. Murray gave you and Tamarack the real introduction to the class, the one she had warned you would be coming. Whoopsie-doo. Sorry. Okay. I'm trying to check to see if my connection is still going, it's still connected. Is there a way to make the chat make a sound? So that I can see it when I'm... Oh, there was a network error. Will that overlay this? Let's see. No, it's not gonna work the way I want it to. It talked about how you just moved to town and what people were supposed to call you and everything. Mrs. Ray must have asked your mama and Tamarack, Omi, and Opa to know all that. Okay, that wasn't that long ago. You were glad when that embarrassing thing was over. That was the end of the not really teaching us anything except names part of class. Mrs. Murray took a paper in the folder out of the flap and moved it to the other side. Please take out your pencils and notebooks now. I'll be going over our plans for the year and what will be expected of all my students. Your mama had packed a fresh notebook with perfectly smooth pages that didn't have a single smudge for you to use. You would grab something to mark it up if you needed to. It was a plain old pencil with a cute eraser on the end, pencil with a cool eraser on the end, colored pencil, pen, gel pen, glitter pen, crayon, marker. Okay, so this is Kia. Kia's gonna do something a little more fun to her, you know. So I'm thinking, in all honesty, before this popped up, I was like, I wonder if crayon's gonna be an option, and then it was an option. So I might, it's tempting to do that one, but I think she's gonna do the pencil with the cute eraser on the end. Yeah, I'm trying to think of other people because I do plan on playing this again with more of my characters. There's so many options. It's much better to play this as other people than as to myself. Oh right, she's ambidextrous. Well, okay, if they're sitting, she's probably gonna want to not bump into Tamarack. Tamarack's sitting on her left, yes? Because the seats are by the window. Wait. Shoot. Was she sitting on the... She's sitting on the right of Tamarack, right? So she should write with her right hand so she doesn't accidentally bump into her. Assuming that Tamarack's right-handed. I don't know if she is. That was the one that felt right today. Tamarack leaned over her bag to be as close as possible. Her eyes were squinted and set right on Mrs. Murray. She started clicking her shoes together, even faster than before. If her legs beat any quicker, she might turn into a one-girl powered motor and drive the desk around the room. Tamarack was definitely eager to get the information being told, but there wasn't a single piece of paper or pencil anywhere on her desk to take notes. Maybe she only had to listen to know. Over at the other group of tables, Chiu's face was pressed against his right fist that he had propped against the desk. Sorry. He was writing slow, lazy lines with his left hand in a plain spiral. It wasn't his special one. That was your neighbors, and then there was you. Class was easy stuff. You went along with it. School was so simple. You didn't even need to try very hard. You did your best to keep up as much as possible. You tried to follow along, but it was hard and didn't go that well. You didn't pay attention to the teacher. It was all dumb. You didn't pay attention to the teacher. You knew you couldn't do it anyway. Kia's not great in school stuff. Let's see. You did your best to keep up as much as possible. You tried to follow along, but it was hard and didn't go that well. Let's say for now you did your best to keep up as much as possible because it's showing that she's trying. She's trying either way. Well, it's the first day. It's the first day. Let's give her. This is. Miss Murray talked about subjects she'd be covering, upcoming holidays and activities, and the way students would get graded, school rules, and even more. You weren't sure she'd ever stop having new things to tell everyone about until she cut herself off. She said something about when parent-teacher conferences might happen and paused there. I'm so sorry, I keep pressing the right click. Chiu, you snuck a glance away from the front to him. You couldn't help it. He totally lost that droopy pose. Instead, Chiu was hunched over a page, and it was from a special notebook. Then. He was scribbling in a hurry. Yeah? The answer was as breezy as ever. He didn't try to sound like a student being called out by a teacher. He was polite enough to pull himself up to look at the person speaking to him. Am I going too fast, or is there anything else I can do differently? You've been very uncomfortable. The pencil dropped and clattered on the desk. Both Chiu's hands hovered over the piece of paper. He stared at it unsure, as if he didn't know if it was suddenly too hot to touch or not. For a minute, Chiu didn't know what to do. He blinked, then started to talk again, slowly, thoughtfully. No, it's all right. He leaned fully against his chair again and threaded his fingers together primly while placing them over the page. From your spot on the back, you could see the edge of an easy smile on the side of his face, and even if you couldn't, you would have been able to hear the smirk in his voice. I wasn't writing down what you were talking about. I'll get to that later. Don't worry over it. Eyes went wide at his boldness, and a few kids were brave enough themselves to giggle at Chu's comeback. Mrs. Murray's usual smile was faint, but it was there. Well, let me know if you change your mind. I will, thanks. She stopped the little break over there and tapped her folder with the back of her hand to get the students' attention once more. Nothing but normal school stuff happened for the rest of the time. It was like your old classes in other places. Golden Grove didn't have a secret way of teaching kids that the rest of the country had never heard of. You figured it would be that way, but seeing a regular lesson happen made it clear you'd be dealing. You figured it would be that way, but seeing a regular lesson happen made it clear what you'd be dealing with. And like the classes you had before, that one was over eventually. But before the teacher let anybody get up, Mrs. Murray went all around the room to drop piles of papers on the few different groups of desks. She explained how the stacks of homework sheets and everyone had to take one packet with them and bring it back finished tomorrow. Then she said bye to the students and it was okay to leave. It sounded like it wasn't going to be hard, so you didn't care that much. She was your new nemesis. Miss Murray was pretty and smart. You liked her a lot. Out of all the teachers you'd had, she was the best so far. Out of all the teachers you had, she was the worst so far. Teachers all seemed the same to you. You were just glad to be out of class. She seemed alright. Maybe you had to warm up to her. Let's see. Kia. Packet to be done by tomorrow? I don't think he would be very ecstatic about that. I clicked this one. She seemed alright. You'd have the whole school year to figure out how you felt about her. Right next to you, the spell that kept Tamarack totally locked on to Mrs. Murray during class broke. The teacher went over to her desk and Tamarack turned to you. She stared at the pencil in your hand. Actually, it was the opposite. She was looking at the hand while I was holding the pencil. I use my right hand too. We're the same. See? I'm not right-handed. I can write with both of them. I can use both hands. Well, I can use my left too. You didn't want to bother explaining that you weren't just right-handed. You were too embarrassed to tell her you could use both. I'd use both hands. Tamarack used both her hands to slap the tabletop and shoot up from her chair. She peered down at you over your desk, still sunk in your seat. That was the first time you ever had to look up to see Tamarack. In the world of giants, she was one of the only people you knew who was almost the same height as you. What? That's real? She bent her arms back and under the legs of a closed folding chair, but she stretched out her neck forward, past her back into your space. Tamarack had gone from high up all the way down to tabletop level. She was watching every twitch of your fingers. How do you do it? Put the pencil in your other hand. Alright, here I go. Just watch. I guess I can. It's not that special. Okay, I'm not gonna do it. No. I kinda don't want to. Sorry. You did it. You did nothing. Here I go. Just watch. Kia's so excitable. Like engagement. The pencil passed from your right hand into your left hand. You lifted it up to Tamarack's glittering ruby red eyes. That was what she'd wanted. Your stunt made her whisper in wonderment, "Wow." As if that proved something, you hadn't even written anything with it. Anyone could just hold a pencil in both hands. She might not have known that, because Tamarack really didn't ask for anything more. Then Tamarack flopped back into her chair. Thanks. I saw Chiyu using his left hand. You gave a thumbs up with your right hand. It doesn't matter, you know. You just shrugged. Say thanks. And then Tamarack wasn't talking about hands anymore. That was finished according to her. This time, it really was the pencil itself that had her attention. She poked it with a finger. I like your eraser. I like it too. I'd like to say yours too, but you don't have anything. I have more. You can borrow some sometime. Okay. Right? This is the best one I've got. I don't like it that much. It's all I had when I moved. You just nod. That made you smile. I have more. You can borrow some sometime. Thank you, but how would I use it? Oh yeah, she didn't write in class. Maybe you could take it with you to use for homework. Maybe. Tamarack started to hum and got to work unbuckling the two front straps of her bag. Hey, how come you didn't write stuff down in class? You were really listening hard in class. You're such a good listener. You didn't have to write anything down. You're probably gonna forget things since you didn't take notes. You quietly unzipped your own pack. You're such a good listener, yeah. The class she'd been tugging clicked open satisfyingly. Thanks. Opa says that too. She flipped the top flap over and in went one of the homework packets. Closing it all back up followed right after her. That was all she had to put away, because she hadn't taken anything out of the bag for the whole class. She pulled the bag closer to her and wiggled herself under the strap. There was only one thing left before she was set. Tamarack bounced out of her chair, and the heavy bag settled across her shoulder with a rattle. Come on, Kia. She made a dash to the coat rack where her pink scarf was waiting. It was time to go, and you weren't going to waste any time. You snatched the homework packet and shoved it inside your bag. The teacher better not want those back as unwrinkly as she set them out. But as soon as you got up to leave, you couldn't, because someone called for you. Hey, Kia! You checked behind you, and there was Chiyu coming up from the front of the class. He was waving a piece of tan, brown-lined paper in his hand. Hi, Chiyu. What's the paper for? Did you drop that? You wondered aloud. You glared unwelcomely. You gave a wave. You watched him walk over. It's good you're here. I've got stuff to say. Though I guess I could have told you even if you had gone. We live in the same neighborhood. It sounded like even Chiyu struggled to wrap his head around the idea that the two of you were strangers about a day ago, and now were people who were going to be seeing each other all the time. There was a soft crinkle as Chiyu tapped the edge of his special paper against his right palm again and again. You stopped being able to hear it when Chiu started to ramble, though he kept doing it. Okay, so this paper, here's what happened. I was talking to my mom and dad about it yesterday. Back when it was still yesterday. And I realized something. He flapped both his arms out wide. Chiu was acting as blown away as he must have been when he first learned the thing he was trying to explain. Tamarack finding my paper and sending it to you wasn't just some unexpected, unexplainable thing that we wondered about. It was sucky. What? It was? Yes. With drama and emotion, Chiu whipped his arms up and down in rapid gestures. He needed you to feel what he was feeling, which turned out to be what he imagined you had been feeling before. You got a paper airplane with a message that had your name and everything. That's exciting. It had to mean something. But then, it wasn't a message for you. It was an accident. Whoa, that's the biggest letdown I can even imagine. He had been flying the page around like it was another paper airplane, but he finally let it rest for a second when his arms dropped. All his bluster became only a sigh. If you were going to get a note from me, it should have had something to say to you. That's what I thought of when I thought about it more. Oh, now I get it. That wasn't the end of the story, though. It was a prologue. That wasn't the end of the story, though. It was a prologue. Chiu sprung back into action and raised his left arm with the page pressed between his thumb and the rest of his outstretched fingers. And so I've got something for you. He shook the paper in his hand, grinning cheekily. There was no way to not get what he meant, and what was supposed to be for you. You wrote me a note? That's right. Chiu swished his paper one more time to bring it down low enough for you to take. You excitedly seized the note from his hand. The page in your fingers was exactly like what you'd remembered from the plain one, somehow tougher and softer than regular paper, and that same light brown color. But when you read the message, the words scribbled on it were all different than the first time. Welcome to the neighborhood. From Chiu Lin, this time actually. Welcome to the neighborhood. From Chiu Lin, this time actually. That's what was written in big clear letters. Stars and a smiley face crowded out any plain spots the words couldn't have covered. It was careful work. The little extra line on the cue was a fancy curve, and he didn't even draw the stars from the corner. There weren't lines through the middle of them. The difference between a note you wanted someone to see and one you got by accident was huge. Some blurry thing came up past the top edge of the paper. You blinked, distracted, then squinted over the page to figure out what was going on in the room. It was Chiu, high on his tippy toes. He was watching you read the note, smirking, hands tucked behind his back, and all around very pleased with himself. It's pretty good, huh? Yeah, thank you a lot. No, it's great. Thanks for this one, but I don't hate the first note. It was cool too. I wasn't disappointed by the paper yesterday. Okay. Oh, thanks, you stammered shyly. It's half good and also half bad, you joked. I'll keep this forever. You silently vowed to treasure it. You smiled at him. You're really thoughtful, Chiu. I don't want it. This is a masterpiece. The drawings are so good. He stared blankly. I think she's gonna say no, it's great. So it's good. No, it's great. Chiu was already standing as tall as he could, but what you said still uplifted him even more through his eyebrows and the corners of his mouth. That lopsided smile grew until it was full to bursting. Even better. You gave one more glance at the message Chiyu had written for you. It was still there, welcoming you to your new neighborhood every time you saw it. When you looked at Chiyu himself again, he'd finally dropped his feet and hands back to where they normally were. He waited there to see if you were going to do anything else. Is this what you were writing down in class? You've really got to focus on class stuff during class, even though notes are cool. Chiyu, were you okay before when the teacher picked on you? I hate the teachers call out people in front of class, in front of the whole class, like what Miss Murray did to you. I've been wondering, why do you wear your gloves inside the classroom? But you stood there quietly. This is what you're writing down in class. Nope, I came up with that before. I had other stuff I needed to write down. What was it, really? Oh, you had more things to write? What? Your eyes widened. You wanted to know more about the other stuff. I can't tell you about all of it, but one thing is that I was putting down where everybody's seats were. I had to write it when I could see people sitting around in their spots. Chiyu talked fast and firm while jabbing the tip of a finger into his left palm just as fervently. He was good at lecturing for someone who was in the 5th grade. Was I supposed to do that after class when everyone was gone, Mrs. Murray? No, I have reasons for things. Oh, that makes sense. Good. Even though Chiyu was the last one talking, he abruptly sliced a hand through the air to get what was the conversation out of the way and have it be about something else. But wait, I forgot. I gotta tell you, I'm impressed, Kia. The first day's gotta be the hardest when you're new. You didn't even break a sweat in class. His hands are on his hips in a commanding pose as he talked energetically. Nothing was held back. You didn't feel smaller next to his bright presence, and you didn't think that's what he was trying to do. Chiyu was starting to know you better, and it was making him look at you differently. You could handle it. Thanks. What do you think would happen? You asked, confused. What do you think would happen? I'd die, you joked. I'm glad you were here. I've been to school before, it's no big deal. I did my best. You held up a confident okay sign. Okay, I figured it out. I remember what that sign is now. You pressed your mouth into a line, uninterested. I did my best. Your best is the best. He closed his eyes and snickered. While thinking some kind of thought, he stretched and curled his fingers to fill out the way his gloves were fitting. Chiyu pinched at the edges to straighten them out better. Anyway, you and Tamarack are in the back next to each other, huh? Mrs. Murray is smart, just sometimes too smart for me. Yeah, I wanted to sit by you too, but she said no. It would have been smarter if you weren't all the way in the front. Chiyu, are you popular? It's so great that we're seat neighbors. It's pretty nice. The teacher said a bunch of people wanted to sit by you. You nodded along. You didn't have anything to say about that. I apologize. I really do keep right-clicking. I don't even know why. I guess I just don't. So great that we're seat neighbors. Yeah, that's exactly what you are. The paper crinkled in your hand. You'd been gripping it the whole time. You twisted away to pull the zip on your bag. The welcome message you got from Chiyu went right next to the packet of homework Mrs. Murray had given you. Chiyu giving you a paper reminded you that you had one you could give him too. You gave him the paper he dropped before class. Your bag was already open from putting away the newest paper, so you just stuck your hand into it again. The backpack couldn't be unzipped all the way, or everything would fall out. You only made a hole big enough for reaching around inside. Luckily, the paper from Chiyu's special notebook wasn't anything like the homework from Mrs. Murray. You didn't have to look to know it. You could tell just by touching it. But you did have to worry about mixing up the page that was yours to keep and the one that wasn't. You had to stick your face against the cold, bumpy zipper to read which cottony paper you had before you were sure you'd gotten it right. Then you looked at Chiyu again. You dropped this. That's what you said when you... Oh, the other one... Wait. Let me go back. Sorry. I should read both options. So this choice says you dropped this, and this one says you held the paper out to him. If you dropped this. That's what you said when you held the paper out to him. It worked like a ticket to a time machine because you saw the exact same thing you did yesterday, with Chiyu gasping, foiling his hands, and all of it. It's you. Both his hands smacked against his chest, pressing it back, while his head, shoulders, and eyes jutted out in total shock. You've got another one? He squished himself so much that the next question could only come out as a bashful peep. That's the paper from yesterday, right? The one Tamarack found? You glanced at the paper for a second and then back at Chiyu. The side with the words was the one you had up. He could read at least some of the message, even if it was bit in your hand. But you guessed it was still a shot, and Chiyu didn't want to miss the tiny chance he hadn't been caught losing another piece of the notebook. That's exactly what had happened, though. No, it's a different one. Yeah, looks like it. Then his stiffness melted away, and Chiyu stood evenly with his head high again. A grin grew too, same as a flower after winter. Wow, Kia, your sorcery amazes me. You and him broke out into laughter together. Chiyu losing his papers over and over definitely was not the work of sorcery, but it was a lot more fun for both of you that way. Told you I was magic. Chiyu swept his left palm towards you, kind of like how somebody might ask for a dance in a movie. He did fancy moves like that a lot. He placed the page right there, like the paper was giving him a low five. Chiyu crossed his right arm over to reach into the left pocket of his pants. Out came his well-worn notebook with the pages barely stayed stuck inside. He flicked it open with his thumb and positioned the missing paper squarely on top of the rest of the set. He ran his now empty fingers over the tattered sides of the book, pressing the corners and edges that had been sticking out mostly back into straight lines. Then Chiyu flicked his wrist to close the notebook, dropped it back in his pocket, and patted the side of his pants fondly. That's that. You did it. The page made it home. Chiyu didn't have anything else to say then. You could tell since he wasn't looking at you anymore. His gaze was on the move. He'd already seen everything there was to see in the class that looked like all the other classes, at least you thought so. But he did find something that needed his attention, in his mind anyway. Oh, she hasn't left either. Wait right there, I've got another thing to do. After cupping his hands around his mouth, Chiyu called past you, all the way to the other side of the room. Hey Tamarack, get over here, you've got to see this. What is it? What is it? You have to look. Tamarack bounded across the room faster than an Olympic athlete probably. It would be close, at least because she was really speedy. She did a skipping leap for the last foot before reaching you and Chiyu and tossed her arms straight up as she stuck the landing. The fringed strands of her pink scarf, which which she had securely wrapped around her neck again, had flown up and almost tickled your nose. I'm here! Good, check it out! Chiyu waved urgently for her to come closer with one hand and reached in his right pocket with the other. That wasn't the side he kept the notebook in. He was going for something else. The two leaned in, having a one-on-one huddle. You weren't part of it, but you could tell what he had by the little glimpse you could catch over his hunched shoulders and the sound of it. It rustled and crinkled, not in a sharp way, like leaves, but in a soft, squishy way. Chiyu was holding a wadded-up bag, probably from whatever grocery store Golden Grove had. He kept the bag tightly closed, gripping two sides of the top and keeping his fists pressed together. Then he suspiciously looked side to side. No one else would be allowed to see the treasures hidden inside. Tamarack did it too after him, either to double check or to not be left out, or maybe because she didn't want to miss what he might be spotting. Alright, this is it. Suspense pulled in your two neighbors. Tamarack bit the nail of her thumb and totally stopped breathing. There was nothing in the world for them except the bag. There was nothing in the world for them right then except the bag and whatever it held. And finally, before Tamarack could fall over from no air, Chiyu parted his hands and stretched open his unusual gift wrapping. Mouth open, eyes wide, Tamarack gawked down into the bag. You figured she'd go wow or something, but she just scanned whatever it was up and down with the same eager expression. It was possible she was so blown away her face could have gotten stuck like that. That turned out not to be true, because eventually she saw enough for a reaction to slowly begin rumbling inside. First, it was with the edges of her lips wobbling, then her eyelashes trembling, and finally her brows pinching fiercely. Tamarack snapped her head and glared straight into Chiyu's awaiting smirk. That's trash! Come on, it's not trash. Huh? What's in the bag? What's wrong? It's not really garbage, is it? Chiyu, what did you show to Tamarack? Tamarack, that's the stuff that's so mean to say about Chiyu's stuff. I'm so sorry. I can read. Really? Sorry. Oh boy, Chiyu's up to something. You sighed. You gulped. What was wrong now? You rubbed your eyes frustrated. What now? You tried to get a peek at what was inside. It had to be really weird if she thought it was trash. A tiny bubble of a snicker popped out from Chiyu's mouth. Then there was another one even louder. The last kept bursting bigger and bigger until he was shaking so bad that whatever was in the bag almost bounced out. That's right, it's trash. What? Yeah, it is. I said so. Being heard over Chiyu's giggling fit could have been a problem, but Tamarack was entirely okay with shouting. Mrs. Murray looked over at the commotion from her fancy teacher's chair. She still had that folder with the roll call paper and class schedule open. Maybe there were no rules once class was out, or maybe this kind of thing was normal with her students because she didn't tell any of you to be quiet. She just went back to her job stuff. By the time you focused on your neighbors again, Chiyu had started to calm down. Chiyu shook his head and wiped a tear from the corner of his eye. Then, through heavy breaths, he gave a wisecracking answer. I didn't say something... see, pointing doesn't work for me. I still don't know where I am when I read. I didn't say this was something you'd want us to have. I just said you should see it. Why would I want to see your trash? She asked him crossly while crossing her arms to go with it. Chiyu gathered the handles into one hand and swung that arm up near his chest so the bag hung over his shoulder. The pose would have fit best for everyone modeling a purse 5 times more expensive than any. The pose would have fit best for someone modeling a purse 5 times more expensive than any your mama owned. And she had really nice ones for work, not a plastic bag full of garbage. I have reasons. I've always got reasons. What are they? The question was cautious, wary of any other tricks Chiyu might pull, but the curiosity was clear in her voice. Being presented a bag of garbage was okay, as long as it had some kind of secret. Well, he paused to rearrange his face into something more serious and nodded thoughtfully. Even though me losing that paper was an unexplainable mystery, I was thinking about how you just got to this town and you're already having to pick up after other people to keep the forest clean. That's not fair. Still speaking as a wise mentor, Chiyu used his other hand to gesture tellingly at the windows. So I decided to go back outside yesterday to check the forest for litter. This is all the stuff I've got so far. He really did have his reasons, and it was exactly like he'd done with you in the note. Chiyu imagined what Tamarack had probably thought or felt from what happened yesterday, and when it seemed like it could be sad, he did something about it. Tamarack sucked in a gasp of air and let it out as a squeal. Really? You cleaned the woods? I did. All of this went from being on the ground into my trash bag. Wow, that's so nice. She did wow about it after all. And she also kicked her feet out one after the other in a happy little dance. Her bag jostled along with her moves like a partner. It was your good idea first. That could have been humble, but he cocked his chin and grinned, so pleased with himself that it wasn't really anymore. Tamarack was too giddy to care or notice. Thanks to you. Yeah, thanks to you. Doesn't everyone pick up trash when they see it? That was funny and helpful. Good job. It was still really rude to do that. You were glad he treated her well, but you wanted to impress Tamarack too. Chiyu was nice to you, but also to everyone all the time. It made you feel a little bad. Why did you act like it was a huge deal if you knew it was trash? I can pick up trash too, you said to Tamarack. I can pick up trash too, you said to Chiyu. I can pick up trash too, you said to both your neighbors. You smiled along with them. That gives the feeling of feeling left out. I think she's just gonna smile along with them. I don't know that she would. Because she's not gonna scold. She's not very scolding. The little trio of you, Tamarack, and Chiyu stayed together, reunited over by the desks while the room became more and more empty of anybody else. After a while, besides you three, there was only the teacher left in the class. It was empty enough and quiet enough that you could hear the doorknob twist and click. That was all that happened, though. You'd figured someone would come in. You checked behind you. The door was open a crack and a person peeked through. From the teeny bit you could see, the person was a kid, or maybe a short grown-up. They were only half as tall as the door. It was the door they were hiding behind. Definitely wasn't your mama coming to get you. Mrs. Murray was still flipping through a million papers, but she called out from her desk. "It's okay. You can come in. Class is over." The door opened and got shoved all the way open and bumped into the wall. After trying not to get noticed, being called out that way made whoever it was confident. They stood in the doorway and put their hands on their hips. The hair on their head was a helmet of sunshine, orange shining, flaming in rays everywhere. The person walked right in without looking at what they were seeing. It wasn't the way you or Tamrat came into class. It was the way Chiyu had. The way someone who had been there before had. But this wasn't their classroom. None of the students you saw that day were this person. In a new school, in a whole new town, you would have been more amazed it was somebody you did know. You would have been more amazed it was somebody you did know. Even though that was true, you almost thought you had met the stranger. The kid's soft brown eyes itched at your brain. You were sure you'd seen those exact kind of eyes somewhere else. It was especially hard to figure out when their gaze wasn't aimed at you. It'd gone to the front, where the teacher was. Oh, you remembered. Seeing the new kid and Mrs. Murray made you think of the matching card games you had to play in school when you were little. You just won by flipping over 4 identical chestnuts. The person with eyes like Mrs. Murray ran to her past the counting carpet and behind the desk. They threw their arms around her legs in a hug, squeezing her knees together. Your teacher gently brushed those sunbeam strands until the kid tilted their head back to smile up at Mrs. Murray with a toothy grin. "Hi." "Hello, Sir 7th grade. Did you have a good first day?" "Darren!" Sir 7th grade, or Darren, or both, gasped and let go, before smiling even wider. "Chee-oo!" He darted out from the desk just like that. Mrs. Murray watched him go, rubbing the spots on her pants that got squished. She was for sure his mom, not only because they hugged, or because of their eyes. Excuse me, sorry about that. Mrs. Murray wouldn't have let a normal student get away with not answering her questions. And you were right. "My mom is your teacher?" Darren's voice came out bright and loud with a big laugh, though the sound was kind of crackly too. He had so much to express to the world, words that could barely keep it all together. Chiyu's own sparkling giggles joined in. He opened his arms all the way out, not holding back anything. "I know!" When Darren crossed the room, he stuck his own hand straight ahead, palm up. Chiyu flipped his arm down and over to land a low 5 smack. It was a powerful hit, but they were both protected by the gloves. Chiyu shrugged, not feeling the sting. "This year's gonna be tough." "Boys, inside voices please, and personally I'd say my lessons are fair." "Right, yeah, sorry Mrs. Murray." "Sorry Mom." Darren lifted his fuzzy black earmuffs off his head, using his hand covered in fuzzy black gloves. He was in the classroom to stay, and he'd be able to hear quieter words better without that too. For the first time, Darren noticed there were 2 more people in the room. That made his smile flatten. You'd expect you'd see new kids today. Darren didn't think about that. He tried to figure out what to do, or think, or feel now that it had happened. Tamarack skipped saying who she was so she could jump right into Darren's face on her tippy toes. As far as kids went, Darren was tall and Tamarack was short. Mom? You said she's your mom? A teacher is your mom? It didn't matter that you talked about Mrs. Murray having kids before you got there, or that a lot happened to show that Darren was definitely her son. Having the kid of a teacher in front of her was too unbelievable for Tamarack, and that made Darren decide what to think about this meeting. He didn't like it at all. His face soured and backed away from Tamarack without thinking, like a giant fluffy bumblebee was coming to get him. Tamarack didn't let him get far from her. Tamarack thinks it's weird that teachers can have kids. Yeah, Tamarack, she's his mom. Tamarack, that's not really nice to say. It was funny to watch. You were uneasy. This wasn't good. Hey, leave him alone. Darren seemed kind of shy. She was just asking a question. Darren had to be shy. Tamarack shouldn't force him. You couldn't get why he had a problem. Tamarack was just talking to him. I think she'll just try to answer. Wow. Sorry. Anyway. Don't follow Darren like that. She was totally serious with the idea. It wasn't a rule, it was a law. Tamarack listened to it better than if it came from an actual teacher. Oh. Tamarack deflated to stand like normal again and stopped scurrying towards Darren. He stood and stopped staring at her. Darren was too afraid of what she might do next to look away. The whole thing made Chiyu sigh. It was an accident, though, because he sucked in another breath super fast after. Then he smiled again like it never happened. Oh, hey, everybody's got to meet each other for real now. We do? Yeah, we do. He used his own tiptoes to smoothly twirled around to shift Tamarack's side to Darren's. This is Darren Murray. Chiyu hooked an arm around Darren's stiff shoulders. The warm embrace got Darren all soft. He melted over Chiyu and their heads bumped together. The two were as close as could be. He's my friend, and 12, 2 years older than us. Chiyu proudly put up a peace sign that probably just meant two. Remember that road right out from our cul-de-sac? Darren lives there. His house is the yellow one with the dark brown fence. We're almost neighbors. That's how we know each other. Yeah, the big hill. I know that. You passed a lot of homes on your way to school. You guessed people had to live in them, but you always figured you would meet a person before seeing where they lived. It was kind of weird thinking you'd gone by his place before you ever knew who Mr. Darren Murray was. Chiyu tilted his face so he was nose to nose with the boy down the street. That's what I've got to tell you. These are my new neighbors. What? Both of them? I thought only one kid was coming. The poor boy was more confused than ever. I apologize, I keep right-clicking. Tamarack could shock people even when she didn't try to. Chiyu came to the rescue. His arm slid off Darren's to pat him smoothly on the back instead. Both of them. Chiyu used his other hand to nudge a finger towards the girl of many surprises. That one is Miss Tamarack Bauman. Granny is her actual grandma. She lives in the gray house now. It was easy for Chiyu to explain what happened now. If Darren had been there yesterday, he could have seen Chiyu's flurry when he'd found out Tamarack was there. Is that what you had to do to sound smart? Act like you always knew something to people who couldn't tell the difference? Maybe it was just a Chiyu thing. It did work for him. Darren listened to his friend's wisdom amazed. And that, like a tiny showman in front of an audience with one person in it, Chiyu uncurled his fingers and held his open palm out towards you. Is Miss Kia Connolly. She's a girl. She is the one who moved into that empty middle house with her mom. We all met yesterday. In the real world, In the real world, Darren had to look down to see Chiyu. It was a plain fact. He had to look down on every kid in your grade. But in the shine of his dipped eyes, you could be tricked into thinking Darren was looking up at Chiyu. That's how much the older boy admired the younger one. The light went away when Darren glanced over the two people Chiyu had introduced. All that was there then was uncomfortable skepticism. I'll see. Hi, Darren. I keep reading normally. Hi, Darren. Hi. That's right. I'm Kia. Nice to meet you. I think you're cute. You gave a wave. You stared at the boys. You shuffled to Chiyu's opposite side from Darren, hiding from him. You hid from the strange boy behind Tamarack. Nice to meet you. You're pretty sure there was nothing weird about what you did, but Darren squinched his face at the attention. Hi. Chiyu chuckled at that playfully, shoving his pile in the chest. Tamarack flapped a hand fast in a wave. It was like the buzzing of a winged bee. She kept being like that around Darren, but you didn't think it was on purpose. Hi, Darren. His features stayed squished. The awkward way Darren was with people still didn't get Tamarack to back off or even slow down. She had thoughts that needed to be said. You're both wearing orange sweaters. Tamarack stopped her fluttering and by clasping her hands together over this important revelation. Darren curled his fingers too, gripping tight around the earmuffs he was still holding. She hadn't said it teasingly, not even the silly kind of teasing Chiyu did, but he was bothered by it for some reason. Yeah, we both like orange. It was a short answer and a very serious one. The whole time, Darren hadn't said one word in response to Tamarack until now. Not when she asked about his mom or said hi. Talking about same colored clothes, though, couldn't be ignored. Orange is a good one. Wait, I meant... Orange is good. One of the top colors. Chiyu cut into whatever was going on, nodding wisely. But do you know what my favorite color is? How would I know that? Because I think it's pretty obvious. For the second time, he gestured over at Tamarack, but not just any part of her. Chiyu pointed toward her mop of sparkly hair. It's golden. That's the best color there is. It was cool to learn Chiyu's favorite color. He didn't care that much and weren't paying a lot of attention. Tamarack's hair wasn't that nice. Chiyu was right. Tamarack had nice hair, whether it was gold or not. Good thing he said so. Knowing your friend's favorite color was important. Gold was his favorite color. That was exactly like Chiyu. Yeah, I think he was like, oh, good thing. Could you even call yourself a friend if you didn't know what the answer to what's their favorite color? Oh, my favorite colors are purple, pink, red, yellow, and orange. That's a lot of favorites. It's probably about half the colors there are, but alright. Wait, and also, every color Kia likes is my favorite too. Tamarack had good opinions on colors. That was going too far. Your favorites are yours. Sharing favorites was an amazing idea. Tamarack was so sweet. She'd appreciate you no matter what. Of course Tamarack wouldn't be able to pick one favorite color. Now you knew what both of them liked. Sharing favorites was an amazing idea. The two of you could get along even better that way. Compared to Tamarack shouting, Darren responded with a peep. He still didn't want to talk to her, but misunderstandings about color rankings couldn't be made either. Red is my real favorite color. Red is my real favorite. Orange is still cool. At that point, everybody had talked about colors they liked except for you. I've got a favorite color too. I've got favorite colors too. You're supposed to have only one favorite color. I have that. I've got favorite colors too. You can't only pick one. Listen to my favorite too. Listen to my favorites too. You didn't think any color was better than any other. Every color is great to you. Colors aren't just colors. Colors are just colors. There aren't better or worse ones. I like all colors. You had a color you thought was best too. You had colors you thought were best too. I think Kia's favorite color is just red. I'm trying to think. Yeah? What is it? Yeah, her favorite color is red. That's why she wears so much red, guys. The color, I associate my characters each with a color, and that color becomes their favorite color. And that's how that makes it so much easier in my head, at least. Yeah, so her favorite color is, let's read all the other options. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, pink, gold, silver, bronze, black, white, brown, rainbow, cranberry. Wow, there's a lot of nice colors here. Trying to think of one of my characters for a second, because I guess Frankie doesn't have a favorite color, sort of. I mean, maybe I could say silver, but the color I have associated with him on his board is clear, which isn't really a color, but yeah. Anyway, her favorite color is red, Paisley's orange, Ryan's yellow, Miles green, Leilani blue, Ty purple. Actually, Sabrina brown. Kind of sounds like a name. Yeah, me too. Same as Darren, easy. Chiu took his trusty notebook out of his pocket. A pencil came down with it. He flicked the pages open and began to scribble right there in the middle of the room during a conversation with people. Why are you doing that? School's over. I'm writing down your favorite colors. I want to remember that. The question was answered, and it completely confused her. It made sense to you that you didn't get it. Tamarack didn't write stuff down, even when class was happening. Okay. A yelp cut off her own planned reaction. Confused by normal things, confusing to normal people. That was Tamarack. You're using your other hand. The left one? Yep, that's my good hand. Wow. Kia has two good hands. What? Awesome. Tamarack ran out of words to blurt out, and Darren didn't want to do anything on his own. And not with you either. It had to be Chiu. So, the three of you waited there as the scratchy sound of Chiu's writing went on. The more letters Chiu added to his notebook, the more his friend shifted uncomfortably. Hey, Autumn, you're coming to my house today, right? Yeah, I am. That was the third quick and direct answer Chiu gave while busy with his task, but it had a big impact on Darren. He smiled relieved. The promise made up for all the stuff Darren hadn't enjoyed since he walked into the classroom, and had two new people become a little part of his life. Making a long dash across the paper, probably to underline something, Chiu finished off his note to himself and his reply to Darren. Now that Key and Tamarack are here, I've got to make sure they get to the neighborhood, but I can do that and go to your house. The worn brown book and pencil were tucked into Chiu's pocket. He didn't watch what he was doing. You did, and this time, no papers fell out. It's not just gonna be me and Darren, you know. One more is coming too. We've got plans. It's been worked out for weeks that we'd get together after the first day of school. Chiu had people to see that afternoon, kids other than you. That was alright, because you were sure there'd be time for you and Chiu to hang out later. He wouldn't completely forget about you. Thinking about it that way, Darren was sort of like you. He was friends with Chiu too, and didn't want changes to change that. There was room for all of you. And because of that, Darren, can you go get that guy? He's going to be standing around outside not knowing where to go. You can bring him right to the room. Darren sunk his neck deeper in the tall collar that surrounded it, trying not to be called on in class after it was already too late. I don't want to. His voice gotten even more raspy when he spoke then. Every bit of Darren protested the idea. Oh, come on, you're the fastest out of everybody. Chiu, on the other hand, was bold and brave. He sincerely sung Darren's praises to encourage his friend, though more quietly added a verse of his own success. With the running anyway, on bikes I'm the best. Did you know? I've got a mountain bike. It has silver paint splatters, and the tires have these big treads. It's so fast, you'd be amazed. But besides, we can't both go. Tamarack and Kia are here. Do you want to stay with them by yourself while I get him? Darren's eyes closed. He grimaced. Darren's eyes closed and he grimaced. If he was looking, he wouldn't have been able to stop himself from glancing at you and Tamarack. You could tell, since that's where his not-seeing face turned. He didn't want to do that either. If he couldn't even handle seeing you both too closely, staying alone with you and Tamarack didn't seem achievable for Darren. Chiu knew it. I'll go. He placed the earmuffs back on his head as if he was donning armor before a battle, resigned but resolute. Cool. See you. Yeah, bye. Bye. As Darren sprinted through the door, you doubted he'd be following the no running in the hall rule. Mrs. Murray was still reading over her teacher stuff, so she didn't put a stop to it, but Darren should have followed them even if no one was watching. Tamarack's focus was set on the action. When that was over, and even Darren's bright white vest couldn't be seen, she snapped her gaze towards Chiu. She was eager and ready to learn more about the boy whose name hadn't even been said yet. In school, in friends, in everything, Tamarack wanted answers. You wondered about it too. You weren't that interested. You were excited. Another kid? Maybe you'd be friends. You were nervous. When would you be done having to meet more people? You were annoyed. When would you be done having to meet more people? If you didn't have to wait for your mama to get you, you would have left. You were excited. Another kid, maybe you could be friends. Chiu began to tell you about his friend, even though no one asked anything about him. Your and Tamarack's faces had been enough to get Chiu going on it. This kid you're gonna meet isn't like other kids. He's mature. Mature rolled off Chiyu's tongue slowly, importantly, with a fake accent. You didn't know what kind, but when he thought a little longer, Chiyu much more quickly added some more details. Not mature, actually, about some stuff. Not everybody likes him, but I do, and you might too. Oh, guess what? He doesn't go to our school, or Darren's school. He goes to a totally different one that costs money, because it's for rich people. Those are actually real. You figured out what accent Chiyu had been doing. A wealthy person's accent, like from one of those movies with millionaires. What? Really? Does he wear a uniform? I wish I could go to school like that. He goes to a private school? Unfair. You quietly nodded at Chiyu's chatting. That sounds terrible. Then how come he's coming here? He could have gone to Darren's house. You rolled your eyes. So dumb. Chiyu, what was that list of food for on the note I gave back to you? Really? Does he have to wear a uniform? No, but they have a strict dress code. He's got to wear button-collared shirts and stuff. Ew! Neither Chiyu or Tamarack were sure what to say next. You were the same. The three of you glanced from one face to the other. Expressions flitted between encouraging smiles and curious peering, until eventually the door flung open. Darren hadn't stopped to check if it was okay that time. He had a job to do, and it had been a job well done. Darren wasn't alone. Their entrance was a funny scene. Behind Darren's striking colors and intent steps was the new boy. The stranger came along, unconcerned, dressed in muted colors. His hair color must have been called black, though dark gray was probably more right. He had black pants that didn't match perfectly with the shade on his head. But there was something about him that made a strong impression. Tamarack, Chiyu, and Darren, too, had lots of energy that radiated out all around them. This boy didn't have spirit in his hands, or legs, or body. His fire was concentrated all in his dark brown eyes. Whatever he looked at came against the total force of his being. It made him unignorable. And that part of him was so noticeable that it took you a minute to see he had a birthmark on his neck, and that his smile was actually a smirk. You were not disappointed on who Chiyu's other friend actually was. This was more intriguing than you'd been imagining. All your thinking was cut off by a shout from Chiyu. Along with that, he punched a fist in the air to welcome his returning champion, the found prince. Yeah, you made it! Darren and the boy he'd brought had given the impression of opposites when they first came in. When what they had in common became clear when they smiled the very same way at the reunion. They both liked the other one of them, and they both liked Chiyu, and that's all that mattered. The two went straight to Chiyu's sides, Darren on his left and the other on his right. The formation of the trio was perfectly smooth. All of them were already aware of where they stood in the group. So this is my friend. He's cool, as long as you tell him when he's being dumb. The boy had been the most collected person you'd seen in town, besides your teacher, and Chiyu just called him dumb as soon as he got there. That was kind of incredible. But Chiyu didn't mean it in a mean way, and the new arrival hadn't even blinked when Chiyu said it. They were friends, and the insult expressed as much affection as the hug Chiyu and Darren shared earlier. Hello, it's nice to meet you. My name is Baxter. Baxter. That name sounds familiar. Baxter greeted you in Tamarack. It was effortless for him to say polite words, though they didn't come with a lot of meaning behind them. Darren was 12, and he was tall, taller than all his friends. But you could have believed he wasn't that old until Chiyu said so. Nobody needed to tell you Baxter was older than you. No one had told you, but you still knew. More than any kid, Baxter reminded you of teenagers, ones who thought they were smarter than not only anyone younger, but adults too. He had that kind of unquestioned confidence. Even the way he stood there looked more grown up than everyone else. That's right. Chiyu put on his snooty voice again and did a curtsy to show his mock respect to whoever the boy was that he was about to introduce. He is Mr. Baxter Ward, the oldest one out of all of us. You knew it. Meanwhile, Chiyu dropped the accent because he wasn't talking about Baxter anymore. And this is Kia Connolly. This is Miss Kia Connolly and Miss Tamarack Bauman. Hello. Hi. Hi, what's your favorite color? You didn't do or say anything. You gave him a wave. You hid from the second strange boy behind Tamarack. You've got such cool friends, Chiyu. Baxter was really handsome. You wished you could hide behind Chiyu, but he was surrounded. You didn't like Baxter already. He took too much space with Chiyu. You're a handsome guy. I was just gonna say, hi, what's your favorite color? What? Baxter's mouth opened with a question, and he kept it in his confusion. The question came out of nowhere as far as he knew. He hadn't been there when the discussion of best colors was going on. You kept on watching him curiously, so he'd know you were serious. That topic was still bouncing around your head, and you had to know what this guy thought. He closed his mouth, and it fit into the shape his lips always made when they weren't open. It was almost like he couldn't form expressions other than curved smiles. My favorites are black and white. Chiyu, and way more surprisingly Darren, started snickering. What could be so funny about that? Hey, want to know the secret why those are his favorite colors? Yes. Not really. Is that okay? You can say so if you want to say so. You can't tell someone else's secret. Your brows lifted. Yeah, you wanted to know. You glanced at Baxter, unsure. Was that even okay? Your face was completely deadpan. Yes. It's his initials. Huh? He's Bob. B-A-W. Black and white. Except his actual names are Baxter Alexander Ward. Ward? Ward. I don't know how to say that. Baxter Alexander Ward sounded even fancier than regular Baxter Ward, and that sounded pretty snazzy in the first place. But it might have just been the grand way Chiyu talked about it. Any name might have sounded impressive if he tried to make it that way. When you glanced at Mr. B.A.W. to see if he had any feelings over Chiyu's announcement, he was grinning fearlessly. That also might have been why it felt fancy. Baxter was a fancy boy. I've got a good name. And also, yeah, those are nice birthmarks. You're lucky to have them. You thought no one had more random compliments than Tamarack, but Baxter changed your mind. Thanks, I think so too. You shouldn't talk about those. Don't say anything about those. Okay, I'm not lucky. Oh, it's nice of you to say that, but you didn't like them. But at least you did. Oh, it's nice of you to say that. You liked them but thought others didn't. Thanks, I like yours too. You beamed, being quite proud of them. You hated them. He didn't need to know that. You shrugged. You shrugged, not getting why you cared. Yeah, because they mentioned the other one he has on his neck. Bowser's lazy stance perked up across the line of his shoulder. They were straight instead of slack. He dipped his head in acceptance of the praise. Thank you. For a second you admired the little spot on his neck as he appreciated the ones on you in a show of mutual birthmark ownership respect. Hi! Tamarack's normal bubbliness popped right after she said hello. Are you actually rich? She said it doubtfully, her hands on her hips and her face tilted intently. It added more to her wondering than what she actually said. What would a rich person be doing there? Shouldn't he be doing something else? Something kids like you and her weren't doing? If you were rich, you'd probably be doing something else, something better than meeting younger kids in a regular school. Darren's face twisted in the center and tightened around the edges. He wanted to laugh. He wanted to stop himself from doing just that. Unlike your question about colors, this one Baxter expected. Yes. Baxter said he was a rich kid as plainly as if you asked if it was Monday or if he had a hat on his head. He can prove it too. Baxter lives in a huge mansion high on the mountain. He does? He does. Maybe Baxter did do things more exciting than you thought. Having the huge mansion come up without him needing to say so curved Baxter's smile more than it already was. He didn't have to brag. His house spoke for itself, or rather, the house he got you to speak for it. The house got you to speak for it. And that was the best brag of them all. If I like the two of you, maybe you'll get to visit. If I like you. Chu's words had shot up in a pitch and rang with humor, his hands out in disbelief, and had to be careful not to hit one of the multiple people hanging around him. Baxter, you show it to anybody who'll come by. Chiu knocked Baxter's arm with his elbow, but that was on purpose, a friendly nudge to go along with the rest of his light-hearted jabbing. His smile beaming at Baxter, his eyes dancing over towards you and Tamarack, Chiu declared in his stuffiest voice a reply that was to Chiu a more accurate picture. Please come see my big house. Why would I even have it if no one was gonna see it and think it's big and cool? That's him. Chiu needed a pause to steady himself before finishing what he was talking about. But it is a really cool house. I would show it off if it was mine. Chiu had to be honest about his friends and himself, when it was flattering and when it wasn't, and ended his show generously. Baxter said nothing, and he didn't laugh. He just glided a knuckle along the edge of his swoopy bangs. The strands curved with the motion, then slipped right back into their normal resting spots. His smirk didn't drop out of place either. With so much not being different, it was easy to tell that his cheeks turned pink. Chiu had sort of made fun of Baxter, even if it was a joke. If Baxter was gonna blush, you would have thought he was embarrassed because of the teasing. But no matter how you looked at it, nothing about the older kid's expression was shy or uncomfortable. He was calm as ever, maybe even a little happier than before it happened. Anyway, Baxter's introduction was over, Chiu had decided. Now that everybody is here, I've got something very important to say. Though he said everybody, Chiu's attention was squarely on you and Tamarack. There was a pause for dramatic effect. Chiu smiled knowingly. Kia and Tamarack, I hereby invite you to join our club. What? Darren shouted out like Chiu just announced he was getting married next week at 10 years old. Not so loud, please. That gentle scolding was way more startling than Darren's yelp. You'd forgotten Mrs. Murray was still at her desk. She was so quiet and so much like a teacher. She fit as naturally in a classroom as the whiteboard or globe. Things that were there and should be there, but you didn't think about it. While you got a reminder, Baxter had never even known. Oh, hello, Mrs. Murray. Nice to see you, Baxter. Darren zipped his lips. He had to settle for silently pinching his brows and pouting. Chiu, who was definitely the leader of the pack, wasn't going to let his word on this decision be questioned. He folded his arms in disapproval. First his mom, then his friend. Darren wasn't having the best moment. Chiu couldn't stay firm for long, though. Instead, he thought of his club and smiled. Me, Baxter, and Darren are a group. We go all around having fun. We're practically famous in this town. Yeah, me, you, and Baxter do. Quietly, firmly, not yelling, Darren pointed out the members again as if it meant something. Those are girls. Darren's glance flicked to you and then Tamarack for a single second. So it did mean something to him. After this whole time, with Darren acting so weird with you and Tamarack, you'd heard why. He was a boy who didn't play with girls. It's a boys' club. Darren gestured around the semicircle of kids to bring attention to the boyness of the collection. Oh, that's interesting. I mean, like, it makes you again want to play the game again because, like, what it'll be like when I pay is like miles, for example. How can we be a boys' club if we're not all boys? He whined in a whisper. Even if you and Tamarack and Baxter were right there, Darren was trying to keep the conversation between him and Chiu alone. Unfortunately, it was Chiu he was talking to, and Chiu made extra efforts to include the two of you. He freely giggled at the problem he'd been presented. Darren, your mom's a teacher, and guess what? Chiu gave a little look over his shoulders towards his possible new group mates. His dad? He's also a teacher at a different school. With a slow shake of his head, Chiu smugly chided his friend. And you don't even know problem solving. Listen, okay, so I'm a boy, and it's my club. That means it's a boys' club. What's the issue with that? He didn't get an answer, though Chiu didn't expect to. Darren could only gawk, as if he'd witnessed a magic trick. Chiu had taken a black heart card from Darren into his fingerless glove hand, and when he revealed it again, it had transformed into a red king. You wondered if Chiu was a sorcerer all along, and he only said you were one to cover for himself. He had a way with words and with people. You and Tamarack, being new there, wasn't what gave Chiu an advantage. He was like that no matter what. Baxter chuckled, a pleased audience member of the event, and then he shrugged with hands in both his pockets. I don't mind if they tag along as long as they can keep up. Great. Baxter's agreement was given directly, and Chiu took Darren's acceptance of his idea and a sure thing, even if he hadn't exactly gotten there. He'd expect you and Tamarack to see it too, and put the choice in your hands. That was the only question. So, what do you think? No thanks, I don't want to. For all Chiu's feats of conversations wizardry, it was equally amazing how simply Tamarack could defeat them so simply by not taking an interest in saying so. That was actually the second time Chiu invited her to play with him and his friends. Yesterday she said maybe. Today she said no. Darren suddenly frowned more. He never wanted her, but he was offended she didn't want him to. Baxter only smiled harder. Already had friends. Being turned away by a stranger didn't make a difference. Chiu was disappointed by Tamarack not considering it, and by his friends' unwelcoming attitudes. No one seemed to care like he cared, even when he tried his best to get everyone to get along. His expression was unhappy, enough for Tamarack to realize with shock the impact she'd have. Thanks for inviting me. I like you, Chiyu. I'm not sure I like those other kids. The two bewildered snorts and one laugh followed that attempt at comfort. Baxter was the one who laughed. Oh, there's full 4 pages. Wow, okay. What time is it? Wow, it's 1. This has been going on for a while. Okay, I'll probably finish, or at least try to finish the school day. Wow, how long have I been going on this? Oh wow. Okay, well, let's read these options. I can probably play with you guys sometimes. I want to be in the club. I don't know. I can't, sorry. No thanks. It's okay to you. I'll join your club. I think that's nice. Yeah, I don't want to be in your club either. We should both join the club, please, Tamarack. It sounds stupid to me. I don't like boys who don't like girls. If she's not joining, then I'm not joining. Why would anybody join? Darren's a jerk. You nodded your head at Chu's invitation. You shook your head at the offer. You huffed at that offer. No way. Officially being in someone's club was too much pressure. The thought of being in a club with Darren made your stomach clench. You did like Chiyu, but Darren made that club seem terrible. You pressed your lips, unsure of what to do. You wanted to be in Chiyu's club, but how could you say that when Tamarack in it? You couldn't. Being in a boys' club, even a boys' club just felt wrong. You want to be in Chiyu's club, but how could you say that when Tamarack did it? Yeah, I think she would want to like all be together. So this is like a big choice. It's like a split. I'll probably play with you guys sometimes. So it's like not officially being in the club, but like, you know, sometimes. Because I think she would like to be in the club, but I think she also would like to hang out with Tamarack. Yeah, okay. Thanks, Kia. That was all it took to begin turning things around. Chiyu's smile grew as Baxter's shrunk into a friendlier size. Even Tamarack seemed to second guess her answer now that you were going to be in the fold. That's one new member. And it's alright if you don't want to join Tamarack. You'll probably regret it for the rest of your life if you don't. It's the coolest club there is. Wait, I want to see. I know. Wait, I want to see if she did say it with. Whoops. She just said it with enthusiasm. Okay. It's pretty much the same. It's just more enthusiasm. Shoot, I'm indecisive. And she's joining either way. Just the way that she joins. I'll do this sometimes. And Kia, Tamarack, don't listen to Darren. I'm sorry he said that about girls being in our group and that being bad. Hey, Darren's gaze fell guiltily, and he didn't finish whatever he was going to say. He may not have wanted you and Tamarack to join, but Chiyu did. Being the reason it didn't work out was an unintended betrayal of his friendship. Darren does not know how to talk to girls or how to act around them. I think the only ladies he can say 10 words to are his mom and Tamarack's granny. Chiyu tossed his hands up completely unapologetically. You thought of a phrase you heard your mama say use before. Don't shoot the messenger. I don't know, that's what I noticed. But it doesn't matter anyway. You can't live your life like this. You're a big kid, Darren. What if Tamarack and Kia look up to you because you're so much older and wiser, and are you not even going to be able to say hi to them? I said hi, didn't I? You said hi to Kia, not to Tamarack. She greeted you. But she was too close, I know. How about you say hello right now? It's not too late. Yeah. Tamarack was instantly in for that idea. She glanced upwards into Darren's eyes, grinning expectantly and swishing her shoulders side to side. Say hi! It was hard to tell if she didn't realize she was giving Darren a hard time. That it was more normal than hello, or if that was the whole plan. But either way, Darren could do nothing except stare hard at Tamarack's smooth jig. Chew, this is embarrassing. Yeah, it is. For you. You can't treat girls like that just because they're girls. Darren groaned through clenched teeth. Chew, Darren, and Tamarack. I keep pressing the button. Not one of them were budging. A low voice came from the area around Darren. It wasn't actually him, it was behind him. Hello, I think your scarf is so nice, Tamarack. Hello, Kia. You have such great glasses. What? Darren couldn't stay quiet for long. His mom had given up on reminding him. I hope you like my earmuffs too. Darren spun around in a flurry, but the perpetrator had already breezed back to Chew's other side. Baxter stood there, self-satisfied, as silent like he had been the whole conversation. He may not have seen it with his own eyes, but Darren knew it was Baxter, and he had a pretty distinct voice, and it wasn't as if anyone could have done it. It was a pleasing answer to Tamarack's ears, no matter who said it. She giggled and toyed with her nice scarf. Do you really think that? The real Darren turned away uncomfortable, with a face pinker than the accessory in question. I like your earmuffs. That's not funny. Leave Darren alone. And do you really like my glasses? You asked earnestly. You really like my glasses too, right? You teased. Baxter, you're hilarious. It's okay if you don't want to talk to me. I'm impressed, Darren. You're a ventriloquist. You glared at Baxter for that. That wasn't funny. You laughed along with Tamarack. Things were so much fun. You put your hand across your forehead. They were all babies. You listened earnestly for his answer. Did he mean it? Yeah, I like your earmuffs. Me too. Darren tucked his head into his vest as much as he could. The main part of his face that you could see were his eyes, which had gotten huge and gone from defiant to shy and maybe a little hopeful. It reminded you of a baby turtle peeking out of its shell for the first time. You guys, Chew lost hold of the situation. He viewed it from the outside, the same as he might have done while watching toddlers tumble around a playground. You know, I don't just invite anybody to the group. That reminder was meant for Darren. He sent an exclamation, "You're and Tamarack's way next." Before, it was me and Darren since we were babies. Then a couple years ago, there was Baxter. It's only been the three of us since then until right now. Yeah, it had been, so why do they have to be a part of the club? It's good you asked. Kia broke into my backyard accidentally because she was on a crazy investigation about a paper airplane. And she got here a day ago, and she's already looking out for me. Normally, I'm the one doing that. Besides, Chiyu tilted his cheek towards you, showing a cheeky smile. His eyes were twinkling. we could just tell we liked each other. I can't explain that. Darren's neck sprung up out of his collar, Jack-in-the-Box style. He was so stunned it was lucky his head didn't fall off. And Tamarack was the one who made a paper airplane for a stranger because it would be fun. What's not to like about that? Lastly, the three of us are all neighbors. That's got to count for something. Even if it doesn't, what were you thinking we'd do? Run away from them when me and you and Baxter are in the cul-de-sac? Try to make Tamarack and Kia leave their own street? No, we should be friends and hang out together. It makes no sense not to let them join the club. She used speech roused Tamarack. Her fists were clenched and her expression was full of vigor. But you were sure she wasn't inspired to join Chiu's club. It strengthened your bond as neighbors and only made her flimsy connection to Darren and Baxter more obvious. Darren wordlessly put extra space between him and the shaking girl. Baxter smiled at Chiu, supporting his friend while being totally indifferent to the results of the effort. When it came to yourself, Chiu's description of why he thought you should be a member made you smile, made you smirk, left you confused, made your cheeks hot from embarrassment, got a thumbs up, made you glad you accepted his invitation, got your eyes rolling, made you smile. He was always nice to you. Chiu got the sense of his audience's mixed reactions. Instead of the full house roaring with applause, it was more like seeing a mostly empty theater with one person clapping in the back row. He worked with it. Well, they haven't been here long, and I know them better than you two guys know them, and the same goes for Kia and Tamarack. They know me better than either of you. It's different for me. I like all four of you. Tamarack can join later, and you don't have to be an official member to do stuff with us. I'm just letting you know what's up. A lot of things bothered Darren, and he showed it. Baxter so far took everything like it was nothing. Chiu went up and went down, but always tried to get back up by the end. That was the boys' club. Chiu was still Chiu, and you decided that Darren was cute. Darren was pretty funny. Darren wasn't very nice. You didn't get Darren at all. You liked Darren a lot. That Darren kid was okay. Darren was terrible. Also, Baxter was kind of mysterious. That was cool. Baxter was mysterious. It made you uncomfortable. Baxter seemed weird to you. You thought Baxter was so... Wait. Okay, there was only one page. You thought Baxter was sort of a stuck-up. Baxter was great. You didn't even know what to think about the Baxter guy. Baxter made you nervous. He was so grown up. That Baxter guy was a snooty rich boy. You did not like him. Baxter wasn't too bad, but not too good either. I think Kia likes Baxter. Now that you were mostly part of that club, Chiu wanted you to be, you wanted to be, and that was the main deciding factor. The tap-tap sound marked at the end of the meeting. A tap-tap sound marked the end of the meeting. It made you think of a hammer hitting a podium in very important and official gatherings. It was actually Mrs. Murray. As she straightened her papers against her desktop, your teacher placed them down in a neat pile as she rose to her feet. It's time to go, everyone. I'm leaving, and I can't let you stay here alone. Am I giving anyone here a ride? Her gaze was squarely on Chiu and Baxter with that question. What would you like me to call your families? It was you and Tamarack who got a look with that one. The first kid ready with the answer was Tamarack. She yelled out with no hesitation. I'm okay. Following after Tamarack though definitely not talking to her, piped Darren. He and his friends already had plans, but he sheepishly looked to his mom for permission to go through with it. Chio and Baxter can come with us, can't they? Right off, she nodded and her son smiled, relaxed. Mrs. Murray held up one finger and added a note before anyone got ahead of themselves. They can't stay all night. I need to take both of them home before dinner. All right. Thank you for letting us visit. Yeah, thanks. What about you, Kia? Our mama's coming to get me. I'm fine. Who knows, you said, not wanting to give a real answer. You smiled, showing you were all right. You folded your arms and said nothing. You glanced at the carpet, uncomfortable with the questioning. I look forward to seeing her. Kia, come to my house. Tamarack pumped her arms like the dark blue carpet was water underfoot, and she needed to row through the indoor pond. I can wait for your mama too. Then we can go. And you can be my Omi and Opa when we get there. Okay, that would be so cool. Really? Thanks. I don't know. I have to ask my mama. I don't want to do that. You nodded at her offer. You shook your head at her offer. You just stared at her. That would be so cool. Yeah. All right. Well, how about we finish packing now? On it. At your teacher's suggestion, gathering outdoor clothes, checking inside and under desks, looking through bags to see if the most important possessions were still there, were all done. Not a single glove would be missing or one pencil out of place if Miss Murray could help it. During the final sweep of the room, there was an eager knock on the door. That might be your mama now, Kia. Mrs. Murray took long strides, reaching the door far sooner than any of her students could. When it was open, you saw your mama, framed by dozens of colored paper leaves taped around the frame. It was great. She could see your new teacher and class and everything. Hi, I'm assuming that you're Mrs. Murray? Yes, but Shannon is fine. And are you Mrs. Connolly? Was that different enough? Oh, I'll do deeper here. Right as well. I'm Opal. Kia's my daughter. It's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for coming to pick up Kia. I don't think I'm making their voices different enough. I don't know. Your focus drifted away from their words as they kept going over what they knew about each other and you. You didn't care about that. But Darren was even worse than you. He sighed at the boring, way too long adult greetings. Chiyu snickered softly while giving Darren a small shove with his shoulder. It brought some liveliness back and got Darren to smile. Mama noticed the cluster of kids then. Her eyes fell on you, and her conversation with the teacher stopped. Kia, I made it. And hello again, Chiyu. Hi, Mama. Hi. She strolled further into the room to join you. Mrs. Murray stayed by the door. Who is the rest of this fun bunch? Mama asked wonderingly, glancing across the faces of the 3 other kids still there. Class was long over, and you were too closely gathered for it to be random people who happened to be in the same place. Why you'd all come together was a great interest to your Mama. 2 of those people were Chiyu's friends. One was your seatmate and your neighbor and your friend. It was her, as usual, who first shot out a reply. Tamarack never took long to think about what she'd say. That's why she was always so far ahead of everyone's words. You're Kia's mama? Wow! You look like her mama. Thank you. Some bits of me did end up in there. Yeah, thanks. I wish she didn't. We don't look that much alike. Whatever. Okay. Tamarack, you blurted out embarrassed. Tamarack, he yelled furiously. That's so rude to say like that, Tamarack. You stood taller, proud to be like your mama. You didn't know why Tamarack cared. It wasn't a big deal. Whatever, Tamarack was just wondering. You shrunk into yourself, feeling bad at Tamarack's observation. A playful smile oh my gosh. A playful smile tugged at your mama's mouth. Tamarack felt inspired to have more curiosity satisfied. Does your dad look the same too? He is like him in certain ways. Her smile dropped, but Mama had a reply for that question ready before you had even fully heard it. But our family is me and her. It always has been. He won't come by to visit. She was telling Tamarack the truth. Tamarack wasn't going to see him. You hadn't even met him. You'd only been told stuff about him when you were younger. Mama said what his race and nationality were, and hers too, so that way you could know your own history. Oh, wow. Oh, well, okay. Well, but actually, oh, this is the hardest question here. Wait. Cancel. Because canonically, to Kia, she's not the same race as her dad, actually. Maybe it doesn't really matter here. Yeah, whatever. That's, whoa. However you wanted to list it. It feels like canonically, the storyline in the other Our Life game might fit Key a bit more because, oh, that's a spoiler. Anyway, I know. Okay, let's move on. Oh, wow, cool. I know, I typed it in and then I was like, because, well, canonically, Kia is adopted. Canonically. But anyway, sure. Well, okay. This is wow. I wasn't expecting this type of question. I mean, it makes sense, obviously, but well, that's okay, because at the same time, your mom explained how having you in the first place worked. She didn't have a husband or boyfriend or anything, but she wanted a kid, so she had you. Mama talked about how you didn't need an entire other person to have a baby. It only took a small part, so she was able to get that part from a special hospital. It was kind of confusing, but you were able to understand that whoever your dad was, he wasn't your parent. He was a guy Mama didn't know, and you didn't know. You liked that it was just the two of you. You were happy with the life you got, but did hope you could see him somehow. It made you sad to think you'd never have a dad. You were mad at him for having kids and not caring. You're mad at your mama for picking a dad like that for you. It was weird to think about. You didn't care about him, but you worried it'd change how other people thought of you. Yeah, see, in my story, Kia has 3 parents, and she's very proud of that. So it's weird to think of her only having 1 parent. And she's also, it's weird to think about. Someone else helped you be born, you had no idea who that person was. Oh, okay, sorry. Frowning, Tamarack pinched and pulled at the frayed edge of her sweater sleeve. One finger slipped through the tiny hole of the cuff. Oh, I didn't notice the hole before. It was gonna rip even more doing that. That might have been why it was torn in the first place. It's fine, you didn't know. Now you do. There was a lot of not knowing for her and you, but you did recognize the tone your mama was using on Tamarack. A low voice, with extra emphasized bend to the word. It meant, I'm not mad this time, because it won't happen again, isn't that right? Tamarack gave a tiny nod, stretching the striped sleeve all the way past the tips of her finger on her free hand. The conversation had been dominated by Tamarack, but still hanging around was the boys' club. They could hear everything said about your family. You tried to figure out their reaction. Chiu was still, besides shifting a narrowed gaze between the friend on his left and the one on his right. Suddenly, he seemed like the teacher of the classroom, keeping a stern eye on the students for any sign of trouble. The 2 of them were on their best behavior, quiet and blank-faced. When Chiu realized you were watching, he became regular old Chiu again, grinning wide. Well, it's good to meet you, Tamarack. That dropped Tamarack's jaw. She was certain she hadn't said her name yet. You knew me? Not for sure, but I thought you looked like you'd be our neighbor, Tamarack. Now bashful, Tamarack hid her face with her hands. Her sweater was finally released from her squeezing grip. While she wasn't looking, Mama gave you a sneaky wink. You told her enough about yesterday for her to figure it out. What about everyone else? The question was kind of forced. There was still an awkward feeling left behind after Tamarack bringing up your dad that you'd never met. But that was something they were gonna figure out sooner or later. So, after all, it was kind of good it got settled with everyone at once. And Baxter took the initiative, properly introducing himself. My name is Baxter. I don't go to the school. I attend Jarrett Witt Academy. You do? That's quite impressive. Thank you. You were starting to think he couldn't feel uncomfortable even if he wanted to. He was a cool cucumber, so it got stuck that way, like if you made a weird face for too long. Except you were pretty sure adults were lying when they said that could happen. He got the conversation to change, though. Your mama was more at ease and gave a purposeful look at the only kid who hadn't spoken yet. And you are? I'm Darren. That's my mom. Darren couldn't meet her eyes. Instead, he stared at his shoes, lifted an arm towards the door. Mrs. Murray was leaning against the wall. Her arms were patiently folded. Mama shifted her gaze between the group of students and the teacher with a big smile. As a mama, she liked seeing other parents with their kids. It was fun for her, you guessed. It's nice to meet you too, Darren. His cheeks puffed out like a frog. His cheeks puffed out frog-like. It was so fast and unexpected that Mama laughed. She usually did not like laughing at other people's kids or other adults, not unless they were telling a joke. She laughed at everyone's jokes, even ones that weren't funny. Your mom pressed her palm against her cheek and breathed in through her nose to steady herself. You've barely been here 2 days, and I already need almost a full hand to count all the acquaintances you have. You work fast. She tilted her grin your way, raising one brow higher. Are you ready to go? Mama, me and Tamarack were wondering if she could come with us. Certainly, I'd be happy to bring her back. Mama stayed put despite the agreement. She was unsure, not about you or Tamarack, but the 3 other kids who were left. That was when Miss Murray got off her perch and came to stand by her son. I'm driving Darren, Chiu, and Baxter to my house. I'll call the boys' parents to let them know. It seems like you've all arranged everything. You got your bags already too. We should be going then. Have a good day, boys. With a parting smile and a gesture of her hand to follow, Mama turned and walked away. Bye. See you, everybody. Goodbye. Finally free, you said with finally I'm free, you said with a dramatic sigh. You stuck your tongue out at the boys while her back was turned. You waved behind you. You waved with both hands over your head. You silently went after Mom. Yeah, okay. See you, everybody. Chiu and Baxter said bye as the three of you were leaving and waved, too. Darren only looked at the big group of girls. Bye, Chiu. Bye, Darren. Bye, Baxter. Bye, teacher. She shouted over her shoulder while sticking close to you and Mama. After all that yelling, Tamarack whispered just to you. Sorry again. You don't have to feel bad. Mama held the door for you and Tamarack to trot by. Then she followed you out. Your first day of school was over. I think I'm gonna stop here. I don't know how much longer the thing is, but I think that's a good end of scene place to end it. Thank you, anyone who tuned in to the stream. I appreciate you watching, if you did. And this was fun. I will play some more tomorrow. I don't know why I didn't expect the demo to be long. I was like, yeah, I'll do the demo in one day. So now this is going on day 3, which might be Wednesday, maybe. It'll either be Wednesday or I'll come back on Friday. 50-50 shot, it'll be in between. Because I was initially planning on doing Wednesday, but there's other stuff that might come up on Wednesday. So yeah. Anyways, thanks again for watching. Yeah, this is fun. I really do want to play this game again as one of my other characters because it's a lot of fun. And I hope you guys are enjoying the story. Another reminder, you can again find this on Steam or on Itch.io. Alright. Thank you all very, very much. Have a nice day.